Yeah. Well, all right. Like you always say, welcome, welcome, welcome. Number one sports talking D. We ain't like the Falcons, we won't blow the lead. Look, all we talk is who that, who got cut and who back. Rookies and the vets, players you should look at. It's the sports coma, you don't wanna miss it. Got the pre-game party, post-game statistics. Get a visit from Sway, maybe DC or 5. It's the hottest thing smoking, Big Q and the guys. Go to YouTube Live, make sure you subscribe. Interviews inside the Saints locker room high. Talk to Drew, Jordan, Zach, Peyton, New Orleans, Who Dat Nation. Best believe when I say we bleed gold and black. Ain't a miracle or rivalry could ever hold us back. No, Beastquake, Bounty Gate, let the truth be told. It's the sports coma, all we know is say Super Bowl. Yeah.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Who Dat family? What's going on, family? Welcome to another installment of the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports family. For those who don't know, I'm Big Q. Sports Coma being live and kicking for over 5 years now, well over 500 shows. Matter of fact, 509 shows over 5 years. This is live stream, TSC Live 107. So it's been a beautiful episode, a beautiful journey. And I'd like to welcome all the beautiful black and gold family members in the building. Who that to you, Kevin? Who that to you, Dallas? Allen, Derek L. Who that to you? Travis 504. Who that to you? Torrey Shepard Sr. Who that to you? Dominic Evans. Who that to you? 985J in the building. Who that to you? JT, what up? JT say, what up, fam? Let's bow our heads in prayer. God be with us through troubled times in Jesus' name. Amen. Big sentiments to that, JT. Thank you for those powerful words, brother, of prayer, because that is definitely needed in this time of just trouble. You know, you said it best. Big ups to you and thank you for that. Dallas Allison just finished the yard. Now I got a shower, but y'all already Bluetooth on lock. All right. I hear you. Thank you, that Dallas. Travis 504, who that to you? Donovan Grayson, who that to you? Let's see, Petty King, what up, fam? Thank you for joining us today, family. Who that to you? Jason King, who that to you? All the family members in the building. Glad to come on in and welcome on into the live stream as more of the family members start to join us on our Saturday show. Before I like to get the show off, I want to make mention of a very interesting news item that just came across me not too long ago. Bobby Hebert's father passed away from the coronavirus, and I just want to give a big my condolences out in the Sports Coma and the Great Saints Think Tank. Condolences out to Bobby Hebert, the Cajun Cannon, man. One of my favorite all-time Saints quarterbacks. His father passed away from the virus, and that is sad. And I just want to give a big shout out in terms of our condolences to that family, man, of Bobby Hebert losing his father. And that was just reported by NOLA.com. So I just wanted to, if anybody didn't hear that today, I just wanted to make that known in these troublesome times and all of this stuff going on, man. Our condolences go out to the Hebert family, man. Just to get it started off. Who that to you, Chad Prue? Good to see you in the live stream as well, Dada. Big ups to you. And I'm welcoming everybody into this one. This is a Saints Free Agent and Draft Talk. And we have a very special guest that I want to bring into the family. And I appreciate the hell out of him joining us today, giving us his very busy time to come in and speak to the family about Saints related matters. And we have Mr. Terry Kimble, who is a contributor down at a Saints contributor at the Who Dat Dish website, who cover all matters of Saints and whatnot. And like I said, I've read Terry's articles. Terry is the man with them articles. And I'm getting everybody out there. Love his insight. Getting everybody out there in the Great Saints Think Tank and all the family members to if you don't know about Mr. Terry Kimble, I want y'all to get up on him, read his articles, and share them on your social media. Because the brother got something to say about the Saints. Really great insight. And I appreciate Mr. Terry Kimble joining us today on the show. How you doing, Terry?
Big Q, man, what's going on with you, sir? Hello to all those in the great Saints think tank today. How's everybody doing? I'd like to first start off by saying happy 328 to everybody. Everybody in the Saints Nation knows what the numbers 28 and 3 means. That's those Falcons. They went down a couple of years ago. So 328, we all celebrating that today. And I just wanted to say, hey, I'm glad to be on the show, Big Q, and thanks for having me, sir.
I told you y'all gonna love Terry, man. He come out with both barrels blazing on them hated Atlanta Falcons.
With fire, sir, with fire.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate you, man. And today we got brother Terry on the line, and like I said, from Who Dat Dish, a lot of great articles. The brother cover the Saints, and the brother is know about them Pelicans too. A lot of good information on them as well. Who that to you, Devin? Big ups to Devin hitting us up in the chat from out of ATL. Who that to you, fam? Now we're gonna get right into our Saints talk with Mr. Kimble. We're gonna start off. Terry, you've seen a lot of the moves that's being made by the Saints. The acquiring of one Malcolm Jenkins on the back end of the defense. Of course, they read up with DJ Swearinger. You've seen the reworking of Janoris Jenkins contract, so the secondary looking a little bit more veteran-esque. Then, of course, we had a lot of the signings, the re-signing of people who we didn't think for a second would be back here. And then you're looking at guys like Andrews Pete, David Onyemata, and the likes. And, of course, the reworking of Drew Brees at a super cheap contract. Well, cheap in terms of Drew Brees is concerned. And then Emmanuel Sanders and the likes. Kind of expound on that, Terry. What are your thought processes on the Saints? Kind of recapping free agency at this point.
I'm loving the moves that they're making. A lot of people may question re-signing Andrews Pete at that price. Me personally, I think that you needed that because you can't put a price on continuity and consistency with your offensive line. I mean, just looking at a couple stats last year, the Saints were top 5 offensive line according to Pro Football Weekly. And because of that, they had the least amount of quarterback pressures on Drew Brees. So you may look at that contract saying, hey, 5 years, $57.5 million. What in the world are they thinking for a guy who seemed like he's hurt? You know, he had the forearm injury last year. He had other things going on a couple previous years before. But, I mean, to actually keep that continuity and that offensive line together, I think you can't really put a price tag or you can't really quantify what that costs to make that happen. So I look at that as just a very important signing. Of course, the Emmanuel Sanders thing. You know, finding that number 2 receiver finally, somebody that you can count on alongside of Michael Thomas game in and game out. I mean, last year you were throwing guys who, you know, 1 week they might have 5, 6 catches, and next week you wouldn't see him for a couple of weeks making a catch. So finding that number 2 guy in Emmanuel Sanders, I think would do wonders for Drew Brees and for the offense and just really taking it to the next level. And everybody talks about Malcolm Jenkins. On the surface, you're like, well, why are you replacing a 32-year-old guy when you had a 25-year-old guy in Von Bell? Well, I think the veteran leadership is something that you just cannot speak to. I mean, last year you had so many young people in the secondary. You was wondering, well, who's the voice back there? I mean, who's the people putting people in the right positions? You know, who's the guy that's going to make sure everybody's lined up correctly? I mean, you had, you know, young guys like Latimer. You had a young Marcus Williams. You had a young Von Bell. I mean, who's the veteran leadership and presence on the backside to be able to give you that? So you got Malcolm Jenkins coming back to the fold, who's been playing at a high level and who is consistent. He has not missed a game in the last 6 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. He played all 16 games. So you bring back a veteran, you bring back a healthy guy, and you just bring back somebody who knows the defense and knows how to play his role. I think that's invaluable.
And that's well said, Brother Kimble, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. A lot of people have issue with the fact that the Saints reached back and grabbed Malcolm Jenkins and brought him to the team. What would you say to naysayers that feel like the Saints are getting older in terms, or as opposed to getting younger? A lot of people didn't like the fact that Jenkins came aboard. I love the move, and the contract was actually pretty feasible as well. And kind of upset about the Von Bell situation. Of course, it came out later that the Saints went to Von Bell first. He turned them down, so the Saints reached to Jenkins. But what would your thought process or your idea or your thoughts on someone saying that the Saints are getting a little old in the tooth? What you think about that?
Well, I like a nice mix, whether it's veteran leadership and youth together.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have those young guys that's in the backfield, like a Lattimore, like a Marcus Williams. Well, mix those with veteran leadership, guys who've been in the trenches, guys who played at the top level in playoff games, to be able to put people in right positions for everybody else in the backfield to succeed. So bringing in a veteran guy like Malcolm, who's already been on the team, and even Sean Payton admitted himself, one of the worst mistakes he's ever made was letting a guy like that go in the first place. You bring him back into the fold, a person who can remain healthy. Von Bell has only averaged playing 11 games a season in his career. Jenkins, like I said earlier, the last 6 years has played all 16 games.
Right.
So you bring back a healthy guy, you bring back a veteran, you bring back somebody who can provide leadership and put people in the right positions, and you think about the young players like Marcus Williams or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, those guys would do nothing but flourish with the veteran leadership that Jenkins would be able to present.
Thank you for that, Terry. And I agree with you on that, man. I think that that experience, and not just the fact that he's an older guy, but the fact that you may mention the fact that he hadn't missed any games and he's been playing at a high level with Philly. And then you couple that with the fact that Sean Payton, man, kind of realized, he said that before about Malcolm Jenkins being one of the big mistakes that he made. And he actually rectified that by bringing him back. And like you said, teaching them young defensive backs. And a lot of family in the Great Saints think tank is a little leery about Marcus Williams, him back there. And they think, and I agree, and I think that the tutorship or the mentorship of a guy like Jenkins back there in Swearinger, those veteran guys back there can help those young safeties that we have in the back end of our defense improve big time.
Not about that, Big Q.
Now this will let some of the family members know that just tuning into the chat. Who that nation? Who that to you? Dominic Evans, who that to you? Jermaine Scobie, who that to you? Eddie Evans, who that to you? All the family members chiming in as well. We got Mr. Terry Kimble, Who Dat Dish contributor, Saints contributor on the line. And he was gracious to come on in and talk to the Great Saint Think Tank about Saints related matters. Now, of course, you heard him break down the free agency talk. Let's move ahead and talk about your favorite and least favorite moves thus far from the Saints there, Terry.
I think my favorite move, it happened early on, but it was the re-signing of David Onyemata. And I think that was big for the Saints to bring back a guy who they're comfortable with. In the limited time that he did get on the field, was able to bring pretty good clip and just overall build some depth on that defense. Had injuries in the last couple of years with Rankins, so having somebody that you feel is a solid backup at a pretty reasonable price to go out and produce for you, I think just based on that alone, that's probably my favorite signing so far that the Saints had. I know everybody wants to jump to Emmanuel Sanders, yes, they need that number 2 guy, and bringing back Malcolm Jenkins, but I think that David Onyemata thing is going to be key for the Saints, really moving forward. And once again, hasn't given up a 100-yard rush in almost 30 games. So, I mean, you need guys like that to plug and pull it right in the game when, you got other people who go down with injuries or not playing to their full potential. So I think that David Onyemata signing was really key for the Saints. Okay,
that was big, and it must have meant a lot to the black and gold because he was the first thing they did. As soon as they did, he locked Onyemata down. And I made a special. We covered it on the show, and I was looking at us like David Onyemata could be priced out of here. And Andrews Pete was 2 of the guys that I called and said, you know what? I don't think these guys are coming back. I don't know. Andrews Pete sat on the market for a while. And, of course, there were rumors around the Saints looking at guys like Tunney, who ultimately the Patriots ended up franchising, so he wasn't there. And it turned out that the Saints had a hole at left guard, and Andrews Pete was sitting out there. The Saints decided to say, hey, we might as well bring him on back. We know him better than anybody. The guy could play 4 positions. If something happens to Terron Armstead, we do the Saints 2-step and slide him out there to cover Terron Armstead. If he goes out, whenever he goes out, not to put nothing on the brother. But these were key moves as well. And you mentioned the Emmanuel Sanders move. I wasn't too crazy about that at first, but then I realized how impactful he was outside of the injuries. The injuries kind of obscured him a bit to me because he had the injuries when he was in Denver and he had some problems there. And ultimately, when he went to the San Francisco 49ers, when he was healthy enough, he had a real impact on that inexperienced wide receiver core. And coming to New Orleans and pairing with with a guy like Mike Thomas, and as you look behind what the Saints got wide receiver wise, it's not too much there in the cupboards in terms of some of stuff you can count on. You know what I'm saying, Terry, in terms of big name. Traquan Smith is very much still a question mark to many people. You have Deontay Harris, who's actually a Pro Bowler as a kick returner and special teams member, but a lot of undrafted guys there that are question marks. What do you think? What are your thought process on the Saints wide receiver room? What do you think about that?
I would not be surprised if they look to the draft for another person. I mean, as you mentioned, you already lost Kirkwood to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, who you have there right now, Traquan Smith, being a question mark about his ability to produce on a week-in and week-out basis, and them not using Deontay Harris every series on the offensive side of the ball. You really have to think about them choosing somebody else in the draft just for depth. Or maybe bringing up a person like Emmanuel Butler, who's been on the practice squad all of last year, somebody like that. But I would not be surprised. I actually wrote down in my notes that the Saints still take a hard look at wide receiver. Even though they brought Sanders in there, I still think having multiple options at that position would do nothing more than benefit the Saints offense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they take a look at somebody in the draft either.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terry. I think that's most certainly needed. I think the Saints definitely need to do that. And the thing what puzzles me about Sean Payton is I'm looking at Traquan Smith. This is his third year here in the Saints offense. The first year, the second year was, I don't know, I was expecting a bit of a leap from him in the second year. We didn't see that. The third year is the year when you're supposed to see what he's made of. And a lot of people are watching saying, hey, we need some help at the wide receiver room. Another wide receiver draft pick would most certainly be problematic to Traquan Smith's prospects is trying to stick and stay with the team. I mean, because this wide he hasn't delivered. I mean, he had a few games where he popped up, like the game against the Redskins when he had the big outing right there, but that's far and few in between. Let's move into your thought processes on team needs. What do you think that's left out there in terms of New Orleans that you feel that we need? I know you mentioned the wide receiver position. What are your thoughts on other really glaring needs that you think the Saints need to address going in?
I wrote a piece on it about a week ago. It's got to be linebacker. I mean, you have so many questions at linebacker right now with the defection of A.J. Klein going to Buffalo, then bringing back Kiko Alonso, which probably was my least favorite move coming off a third ACL of his career so far, and the uncertainty with Alex Anzalone, who has been placed on IR 2 out of the 3 years that he's been with the Saints. So outside of DeMario Davis, you have nothing but question marks along the linebacker corps. So that's probably my biggest need right now, and hopefully I look for the Saints to address that pretty quickly in the draft. In my piece I had about a week ago, I kind of flirted with the idea of the Saints maybe bringing a guy like Clay Matthews, who had just got released from the Los Angeles Rams.
Right.
Now, I thought just from a versatility and a leadership aspect, putting another warm body who can play all three linebacker positions, if you can bring him in on a pretty good price, I could see that actually working out in the Saints' favor, knowing that there's so many uncertainties. I mean, even if you bring somebody in the draft, I mean, you're looking at a rookie possibly being called upon to plug and play right away, which, that would be a learning curve at that point, depending on who it is. So I wrote a piece about a guy like Clay Matthews. Like I said, I look for the Saints to address that need fairly early in the draft. So I think that's probably their biggest need right now, looking ahead to the season.
Yeah, and Terry, I looked at that piece, and that's really interesting because one of the great Saint think tank family members mentioned Clay Matthews. And I said to myself, wow, that's interesting. I know I didn't consider Clay Matthews. I was looking at guys like Everson Griffin. I was looking at guys like Marcus Golden from the Giants, who had 10 sacks last year. But Clay Matthews never entered my mind, and he kind of would fit the Sean Payton's kind of veteran linebackers that can do a little something like that. If you think about, the Saints do have the propensity to go and look at guys, those veteran guys, and rely on them, like they did with Manti Te'o. They take shots on them. A.J. Klein was an interesting person as well that they brought in. So, that Clay Matthews move would definitely work. How many sacks did he have? He had 8 or 9 sacks last year, didn't he?
He had 8. He had 8 sacks in 12 games last year. So I mean, he had a lot of production from that linebacker position. And like I said, he's a guy who can play multiple positions. So just because of that aspect alone, that versatility is something that you would have to consider if you were to bring a guy in like that.
And the fact that he might not cost a lot either, Terry, to come in here and fill in that and put that veteran edge. And he's another very productive, experienced veteran player that's fitting the theme right here for this year, going into a Super Bowl or bust mentality, don't you think?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Bring the veteran guy who, once again, he's played in playoff games. He's got 10-plus years of experience. He still thinks he has something in the tank and something to prove. Well, his value is not there right now as far as the high market value, so you can break him in on a good price. And because of that, he'll probably come in with a chip on his shoulder. And he'll want to produce and kind of show the Rams that, hey, why did you let me go? I can still produce at a high level. So I think that, coupled with his value not being that high and him having that chip on his shoulder, I mean, that could be a perfect marriage.
Yeah, that's actually really stellar points, and that could really work to get somebody like Clay Matthews, who has the vision. The guy's a playmaker. He has a nose for the ball. I mean, he would be a good signing for the Saints. And then, I mean, you can move him around and his emotion, all that. That'll be interesting to see something like that. Yeah. I remember some time ago, the Saints made a move where they tried to bring in another Ram linebacker to come here and play, and it didn't turn out too well. His name was James Laurinaitis. So that didn't turn out too well for the Saints. But I think Clay, I think Clay will be all right.
If that happened this time, it'd be different than that
one.
That's
right. Yeah. That's right.
I think Clay would turn out a little better than James. James had too many injuries going on with him.
Man, yeah.
I think Clay could turn that around a little better.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Terry. Now, for the family members joining the stream here, who that to you? I see you there. Chad Prue, who that to you? Edward Labarski, what up? Edward, who that to you as well? Kelvin Washington from Phoenix, Arizona. Kelvin's in the building. Good to see your family. We got on the line right now. Who Dat Dish contributor, Mr. Terry Kimble. He covers the Saints, and we bringing this really wise take on free agency and as well as the draft. And we're gonna move into to the draft. And I know we spoke about some of the things dealing with the draft going forward. Going into the draft, Terry, tell me some of your thoughts on some of the players who you had. I know you had an opportunity to kind of look around at some players who you think that can help the Saints. Could you share with us a few players who you think that can help the Saints? And we have five picks, a first, and then we have a second, a third, fourth, fifth. What are your thought process on players that can come in and help the black and gold?
Well, before the Emmanuel Sanders signing, I thought for sure that, wide receiver would be the way to go in the first round. So, everybody was looking at, the trio of wide receivers that everybody thought would be off the board by the time the Saints picked, Judy, Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, those guys. Thought it might have been an outside chance that, Jefferson could fall to our left in 24th, but I'm thinking he may go a little earlier than that. But the guy I was focused on, and I've seen his name pop up in a bunch of mock drafts going early and early because of, how well his combine did, was Denzel Mims out of Baylor. Okay. The junior wide receiver there. And this guy here has all the measurables, all the intangibles to being a great wide receiver. Guy 6'3", 207 pounds, runs a 4.38 40. I mean, guy can just fly. He's got good hands. Kind of obscure because he played at Baylor, and the team didn't do so well during the beginning of his career. Now, last year they had a good season, winning 11 games, so he kind of shined more. He caught 12 touchdowns last year. But that was the guy that was on my radar from the beginning, thinking the Saints were going to pick up before the Sanders deal. Now, they still, like I said earlier, could potentially still look at a wide receiver in the draft, but he was the top target I had for the wide receiver position. Now, moving right along, seeing that that's kind of shifted a little bit, and that linebacker is probably a higher priority. If Kenneth Murray is there at 24, which I doubt, if that junior there from Oklahoma is there, I think you have to take him. I mean, that guy is an absolute thumper, man. That guy puts his nose down. He's got an eye for making big plays in the backfield. People kind of question his coverage skills. Doesn't have the fastest 40 time, so his coverage skills may be a little, something to be desired at. But I'm talking about just putting your nose downhill and go find a running back and making him play on the quarterback, making him play in the flat. I think that guy is top notch right there. So that'll be the two immediate guys I will look at, whether it's a wide receiver or a linebacker the Saints want to choose to go for. If Murray's there at 24, I think you take him. Even if he's not there, maybe a guy like Patrick Queen out of LSU. He's another guy who can fly. I mean, he's just a real competitive guy too. That's what you hear nothing from the coaching staff at LSU saying about how competitive he is. That he welcomes the challenge that either guarding somebody, making the big play, making the big stop. So those are the guys that kind of jump out to me. That be somebody who can fit the Saints' needs kind of immediately.
Okay, yeah, those are good callers. Pat Quinn and Ken Murray, man. They're excellent. They're excellent players, to be honest with you. And Pat Queen really didn't get his credit. And I think, arguably, a lot of people's picking Queen over Murray, even though Murray, man, he's fantastic, man. I watched film on Murray. He's fantastic. Of course, I'm an LSU guy, so I seen Pat all season long. So, I'm always go with the LSU guy. Thank you, Donovan. Big ups to Donovan. He says, great job in bringing guest speaker, Big Q. Nice touch. I got to thank GM Kev on that. GM Kev was the middleman, and that big ups to GM Kev for putting me and Terry together. So thank GM Kev for that. Big ups to your family. Okay, Terry, let me ask you about this. Now, you mentioned Pat Queen and Murray, and then and Mims from Baylor. What are your thought process on the Saints and the quarterback? Because a lot of people out there feeling like the Saints need to look at getting a quarterback here. Maybe not with the first pick, but perhaps third or fourth round pick. Any quarterbacks, in your opinion, on the radar that the Saints should look at possibly getting in the later rounds?
If it's a third round, the Saints pick, and Jalen Hurts is there, I think the Saints have to take that.
Okay.
I do. And I know a lot of people kind of question, Jalen Hurts' throwing ability and whether or not it's one of these, a guy who can run, who happens to throw the ball. But I would not be opposed to taking a guy like Hurts in the third round, letting him sit behind Brees for a couple of years, let him learn, different techniques, different formulas, different keys to success. And then if he's ready, turn the keys over to him. I just see a lot of upside in his ability. I mean, I like his mannerisms. I like his approach to the game. Just take the situation he had in Alabama. All took over for him. I mean, he didn't sulk his head. He didn't put his head down. He was still a team player, and he happened to come in that SEC championship game a couple of years ago and win that for them. That propelled them to be able to go to the national championship game. Had a great year at Oklahoma last year. So, I mean, a guy like that, these guys look at guys like, Lamar Jackson, Pat Holmes, guys who can extend the play, use their feet, to throw the ball from there. I think a guy like him would be definitely somebody you should take a look at if he falls all the way to the third round.
Hey, I love it. We just did a mock draft where the mock had him falling there, and I picked him up in the third round. And I said, man.
Perfect. See, great minds think alike.
Hey, Terry, Hurts, his body of work, his resume, speaks for itself. I don't understand. What's the thought process in so many people rating him lower? He's rated lower than Fromm from Georgia. He's rated lower than what's the kid, Jacob Eason from Washington. He's rated lower than
from Washington.
From Washington. And then I'm like, how and why? What is your thought process on his low rating? What's the deal with that in your opinion?
I don't know if it's because he's not the prototypical 6'4", 6'5", 20, 30-pound pocket passer. Every time I see him, the guy just makes plays.
Right.
And that's what you want at the quarterback position, someone who can make plays, someone who's not just stature in the backfield and easy target for the defense, someone who can move around with his legs, move around to actually throw the ball, move around to run, move around to get first downs. Someone was a senior in college, so you went through 4 or 5 years worth of experience playing at the highest level. You don't go to schools like Alabama and Oklahoma and be scrubs starting for teams like that. His record is impeccable in both places. So I'm not sure what the knock on him is just as a player. I guess a lot of people look at the fact that he may have been benched by a freshman, but look how great Tua turned out to be.
Right.
If he wasn't benched for a scrub, he was benched for another great player. It happens sometimes. He was able to go somewhere else and get his shot again, but I'm not sure exactly what the knock on him is because ability-wise, he's off the charts.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's just him not being that prototypical guy, but when I watch him on film, I watch a football player who can play quarterback at a high level.
Absolutely, Terry. I agree with you, man. And if they top 9, if that, And
Kyler Murray.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kyler Murray's 5-team, if that, yeah.
Right, if that. So I'm like, wow. I mean, so if I thought we done crossed the threshold here where the talent speaks for itself, never mind the height situation. It didn't stop him at all. But Jalen Hurts, to me, for whatever reason, I've noticed that, and truth be told, from a historical standpoint, you notice that happens every year. It's always the one guy they single out. Last year was Lamar Jackson or what? They single
Jackson.
Right, not Lamar Jackson. Who was it? Last year it was somebody. Last year prior to that, it was Lamar Jackson. But it's always at least one guy that is singled out, and like he can't play the position or what have you. But when he went to the combine, all I seen from Jalen Hurts was tight spiral on the football, high football IQ. The guy is an absolute leader. I mean, he's smart. He doesn't give you any Jameis Winston problems. You know, I mean, none of that nonsense. And the guys, I don't get it. But it'll work for us if that's the case. Who that to you? D. Granger and Crass. Big ups to my boy Crass and D. Granger in the building. Who that to you? Good to see you. We are speaking to Mr. Terry Kimble, Who Dat Dish Saints contributor. Brother is deep, got a lot of great knowledge on the Saints. He dropping knowledge and sharing some time with the Saints and the great Saints Think Tank family members. So just take all of this in, fam. Let's keep moving on. Let me ask you about this, Terry. We talking about the Saints, and what is your thought process on the running back position, in particular, Alvin Kamara? Elvin's didn't look too good last year. He was turning, running out of bounds. People was kind of suspected about that. Didn't actually like how he played last year, despite the fact that a lot of people said that he was still dealing with injury, and he said he was 80% or whatever. During the season, he said he was almost 100%. Then after the season, he then recanted and said he was about 70 to 80% or something like that. I remember reading about. And then, you know, a lot of people didn't like how he played last year. And then, of course, firing his agent, getting a new agent, Rich Paul, whose name of his game is getting the big contracts. Of course, he has a 1 year left on his contract coming up. What is your thought process on Alvin Kamara? He's a big piece of what the Saints do. Do you capitulate that he possibly could be looking at a holdout? If so, what do the Saints do in terms of a security measure, if that's the case in your opinion?
I think last year for Kamara was just a minor setback, projecting for a major comeback next year. I truthfully believe that he wasn't 100% healthy. And players oftentimes say that, hey, you know, I'm healthy. If I'm on the field, I'm 100%. But, you know, that's not always the case. There's always nicks, bruises, and everything else that goes on throughout the 16-game grind, those NFL seasons. So I think at some point through the season, whether it was ankle or knee, I mean, he was more hurt than what he led off to be, which is why his production dropped like it is. But when he is 100% and the Saints are utilizing him to the best of his abilities, I mean, I can't name a top 5 running back that's perfect for their team than he is for his. I mean, he can just do everything when you think about it. He can run between the tackles. He can bounce outside. We know he can catch the ball out the backfield. He can block. I mean, he can do everything that you want from a guy. And it always seemed like the first person who made contact with him never brings him down. I mean, that's the Kamara we know. I mean, I always compared him like to Pierre Thomas. Whoever hit him first, they weren't going to bring him down. So when he's 100% healthy, I mean, I feel like he's what the Saints need in that backfield, granted that he's healthy. Now, moving forward, I know you mentioned the name Rich Paul, and we always know what he has a propensity to do. Fish for the big contracts, holdouts, get guys to bigger markets, bigger teams, things of that nature. I think it depends on what the market value of Kamara is going to be. I don't expect him to command, Christian McCaffrey money, which, he'll be a free agent next year as well. I think they're trying to make him the highest running back in the NFL. I think the Panthers will. I don't think he would be up to that type level, but I do think it will be incumbent on the Saints to bring a guy like him back, provided that this season he remains healthy, he wants to be here, and then that they can have a nice fluid contract negotiations to go along with him. But I think he's a key piece and a key cog to the Saints offense. And I think if the Saints have it within their power, they would be foolish not to retain a guy like that moving forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Terry. I think a lot of people want to keep Alvin Kamara, and I've often said that you hear chatter about trade talk from the family base that's saying that that there is a place that we want to go. We won't go with Kamara financially speaking. A lot of people don't want to go $10 million, double-digit money a year. If that's the case, then most certainly you wouldn't. But Mickey Loomis, if you go back and look, and like we've done, looked at the contracts that he's reworked with Drew Brees this year long, absolutely amazing how Mickey Loomis magically manipulates and does these phantom years in the contracts and all this pushing money off. I mean, it is absolutely amazing how he's done this. And once again, when a lot of people think that the Saints don't have the financial resources to go out and get impact players, lo and behold, another year the Saints do it. Emmanuel Sanders, 2 years, $16 million. You're looking at Malcolm Jenkins' contract, the reworking of several re-signings here, the Janoris Jenkins move as well, Drew's move, and man, fantastic. Let me ask you this, Terry. What's your thought process on who gets signed next in terms of the Saints, young players, or in terms, because we still have a few players out there that are still sitting on 1-year deals. In your opinion, who you think gets done next contractually?
Well, I mean, next year, you've got, Marshawn Lattimore, you've got Ryan Ramczyk. Of course, we mentioned Kamara. I mean, I think starting off, you've got to lock Ramczyk up. I mean, I think he's a top 5 at his position, no doubt about it. He's still young. He still produces at a high level. Pro Football Focus ranked him number 3 at his position in the entire NFL. So I think you've got to look at a guy like that, and you've got to lock him up to keep that cohesion with your offensive line moving forward. You got to look at Latavius Murray next, too. I mean, a lot of people are kind of down on Lattimore. They think he's hot cold. But, I mean, he produces when he's out there. To me, yeah, of course, he can give up a couple big plays. He's a little handsy at times. Sometimes he's kind of thrown off when the ball's in the air. But, I mean, you look at the guy making Pro Bowls after that, I mean, you got to think that he's the guy that the Saints definitely would have to lock up. And like we just mentioned, the aforementioned Kamara, if he's at the right price, I think that's another person you have to look back to bring him back into the fold. But, I mean, I'm never doubtful of the Saints getting who they need or want because of Mickey Loomis. I call him the magician of money. How he is able to finagle the numbers and void these last 2 years, throw them on here. This is a signing bonus. You only played for $5 million this year, and we'll throw the rest on the back end. We can void that out, not against the cap. I don't know how this man does it. He must be the smartest man in the world when it comes to money, but every single year it seems like we're so tight with the cap. Hey, we only have 10, 12 million to play with, but yet we're bringing in all these guys on these contracts like that. He's able to make it work, but that'll probably be my top 3 if I'm projecting forward. The re-signing of Ramczyk long-term, Lattimore, and then Kamara after that.
Yeah, and in some kind of way, we got to fit DeMario in there too. He has 1 more year left on his contract. He's been an impactful piece as well, unless the Saints are going in their youth movement.
Let's not forget about DeMario, yes.
He definitely earned his way back in here, and he really solidified the defense for New Orleans for some time. We were playing virtually musical chairs at the inside linebacker position for the Saints for several seasons until DeMario came in here and just did something that very few of our middle linebackers was doing. Just stayed there and played. So, I mean, big ups to DeMario Davis. Who that to Tyrone Jones, Sean C., and the rest of the family members chiming in the live stream as well. For those who just dropping in, we are talking to Mr. Terry Kimble. He's a key contributor, Saints contributor from Who Dat Dish. And he breaking down Shannon's thought process on the Saints draft-wise, free agency-wise, recapping the free agency as well. And let me ask you this, Terry. I got one final question for your family. Just thinking about the Taysom Hill situation. Of course, Saints tendered him with the first-round tender. What do you think about Taysom? Do you think somebody will kind of nibble on that offer, Taysom Hill, or relatively, what do you think about his process? The Saints bring him back for a multiple-year deal, or just kind of just give him a 1-year signing and just gimmick him, do a gimmick thing like they did last year with him? What's your process of thought on Taysom Hill?
Well, the tender was smart. I mean, if any other team wants to take a bite out of him and the Saints don't want to match it, I mean, that's a first-round pick. And so for a team to do that, they would have to be sure that that guy is a guy who can play all 16 games, 80, 85 snaps a game, and be able to produce at a high level. Me personally, I don't think he's there right now to have a guy to just take over the reins and say, hey, for 16 games, you win us 12 or 13 games, and you be the main guy to go ahead and do that. Read all the defenses, call the plays, check out the line, audibles. I don't think in his development that he's there right now to take the reins of the Saints offense. So because of that, I mean, I actually think they may take another wait-and-see approach, maybe a one-year deal to kind of see what happens after that. Maybe they pick up somebody in the draft, or, maybe they go one of these guys who, were just recently cut, bring him in as a backup. He can do and project where he may be in another year. But I'm not sure that they are 1,000% confident that he is their quarterback after Drew Brees retires, let's say for the next 5 to 7 years after that. So I think because of that, I think they may do a little short-term thing right now, kind of see where they are in about a year or two, and then see if they want to project him a little longer than that. I mean, he's invaluable for being that Swiss Army knife in the offense, igniting plays and doing things on special teams, but I just don't think in his development right now he can take the reins for 16 games and go win them 12 ball games out of that.
Oh, so Terry, you obviously not buying the idea that Taysom Hill is Steve Young.
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I don't think he's the guy sitting behind Joe Montana waiting for his turn to win 3 Super Bowls. That's just my opinion, though. And I could,
Terry, we right
like
with
I
you.
said, what he can
we
do,
with you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I mean, because I talk to so many people now, like, man, put him in. He'll play so much better than Brees in the wild card game, and he should be the quarterback for the next 10 years. And I'm like, I don't think we're watching the same thing. Like I said, for what he can do, the spark that he can bring, he's a 6-man off the bench. He can come in, he can do a variety of different things. But to tell him, for, hey, 16 games, we need you to get us to the playoffs and play at a high level week in and week out, I don't think he's there right now.
Well, I agree with you, Terry. I mean,
no knock on him.
No. Of course, no. I think Taysom Hill is a tremendous talent. I've been on record for saying that, but I've been critical of the fact that how Coach Payton continuously throwing out these accolades, calling Taysom Hill Steve Young.
Yeah, Steve Young.
And I'm like, hold on, maybe you meant to say that he has Steve Young type qualities, not that he is Steve Young, because if he was, you would have played him over Teddy Bridgewater last year when Drew got hurt. So
no doubt.
And then the franchise talk, Terry. The franchise talk about Taysom is the face of the franchise or the future franchise, all this kind of stuff at the end of the season, and then ultimately goes back to talk to Teddy Bridgewater to try to renegotiate Teddy Bridgewater to come back ultimately before he took that $60 million contract to go to Carolina. So, I mean, this is kind of a sleight of hand by politician Payton, as I call him at times, to kind of move these guys around. So it's I've heard a lot of people say, no, Q, Taysom is the future. Sean Payton said, and I said, listen, man, grain of salt on that, because if it was the case, we would have Taysom Hill. We would, like Sean himself said, we want to have him signed before free agency start. Of course, that didn't happen. We still, we about to get to the second layers of free agency. Taysom's still out there. He's not signed. He's issued a tender, but he hadn't signed his tender as well. But it's just good to know, of people, family members like yourself out there, that just looking past all that smoke and mirrors from Sean Payton, because a lot of people still believe in the hype about Taysom Hill, talking about he the franchise, the future of the team, and they're really gonna blow their mind when the Saints do bring him back on the 1-year contract. Just say it, man.
Yeah, which I project happening. I can project that happening right now.
Well, listen, family, we on Who Dat to you, Demi. I see you, Demi, just chiming in. Who Dat to you? She asking who's on the line. We got Mr. Terry Kimble on the line. He's the Saints contributor from Who Dat Dish, and he's on the phone. He's been on the line since we started the live stream, dropping knowledge, man. And as you can hear, Terry is deep with the Saints, and Terry also know about them Pelicans, man. Terry is the Saint and Pelican man, true and true, covering and dropping knowledge. But I appreciate him dropping that information. Who Dat to you, Gundam 13 in the building. Good to see your family. Terry, do you have a few minutes to kind of take questions or calls from the great Saint Think Tank members, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'll be honored to do so.
Okay, Terry says, and we appreciate Terry for staying on with us, family. So you can hit the live line up and talk to Mr. Kimble, ask some questions about the Saints. And we covered a great deal today, man, about some of the moves or whatnot. But if you have questions that you want to ask Mr. Kimble, feel free to call the live line, 504-475-4482, 504-475-4482, 504-475-4482 is the live line. Please feel free to chime in right now. Mr. Kimble is waiting to listen, to take your questions, comments, or concerns, whatever. Speak your mind, express yourself here on the Great Saints Think Tank. Dada says, family, do you think it's possible we draft a running back in this draft to help us with the running game? What you think about that, Terry? Dada is asking about, do you think it's possible that we take a running back in the draft to help out with the running game? What's your thought processes on that?
It's definitely possible, but they definitely later on in the rounds. I mean, that's not somebody with the first and third, because you've got limited picks, in the first couple of rounds. I don't think you try to address that right then and there, but I can definitely see them taking somebody, later on in the draft just to kind of add some more depth to that position and see if they can develop somebody just in the scenario that, Kamara and the Saints can't, financially come to terms next year on a long extended contract. You still want to have some depth back there, maybe another change of pace guy if you're going to retain, Latavius Murray, in the future. I know he's on a 4-year deal right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if later on, 6th, 7th round, maybe they take a look at somebody, add some depth that they're trying to project in the future, but definitely nobody in the first couple of rounds. I mean, I'm always wary of taking running backs in the first 2 rounds anyway, because I always think you can find, value with that position later on in the draft. So, I mean, I wouldn't touch a running back for the first couple of rounds, but definitely later on in the draft, I could see the Saints doing it, and I would not be opposed to that either way.
I have to agree with you on that. The running back position is so devalued, and there's so many really good ones in this draft, so deep with there are at least a dozen really excellent running backs that is in this draft. I mean, you look at the kid from Wisconsin, Dobbins from Ohio State, right? Taylor with the 2,000 yards rushing, and you have Perrine, I like, from Florida. I mean, it's so many really. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is another fantastic from LSU. I mean, this guy is fantastic, like Sproles 2.0 in my opinion. I mean, he's fantastic.
Yes, exactly. Mighty Mouse is what I call him.
I mean, he's terrific. But that's the thing that I look at with the running back position. Now, of course, like you mentioned about Kamara, then we're looking at the fact that you have Latavius Murray that is sitting behind him. And let me throw this at you here, Terry. What's your thought process on Latavius Murray? Last year, the Saints played Murray kind of scantly, and they utilized him when Kamara was gone. But when it came down to actually using Latavius in the situations that he would thrive in, like the 3rd and 1 situations, perhaps putting the fullback out there to helping them roll. What do you think about the limited usage of Latavius Murray in the Sean Payton's offense? What's your thought process on that?
Well, I just take it a year before that. I think one of the biggest losses Saints had was Mark Ingram. Him going to the Baltimore Ravens and him being a guy who was, tutoring Kamara on how to be a professional, different looks and how to do this, and what Ingram brought in the screen game that, Murray seems to kind of struggle with sometimes carrying the ball off the backfield. I think because of Murray not being, I guess, as multi-purpose as Ingram was, he was used so sparingly. And sometimes I think Peyton kind of has a tendency to be his own worst enemy, trying to outsmart people. So when those 31s and 32s do come, you've got a guy like Murray. He's not going to just throw him the ball or pitch him the ball out the backfield. He usually does something else. So I think because of that, Murray kind of got overshadowed for what he could do, because he's just a straight up and downhill runner. And that's what he does. You hand him the ball and he gets downfield in a hurry. So I think because of losing Ingram the year before and him not being able to do the same things that Murray's not being able to do the same things that Ingram can do, in the game, I think that kind of put him to the back seat a little bit. And of course, with Kamara having his injury, you really didn't see the production out that running back position that you were so used to seeing the previous 3 years before that when Ingram and Kamara was a tandem together. So I think another year of Kamara actually being healthy and Sean actually using Murray to what he's supposed to be, just a downfield runner, you'll see a little better production out that running back group from that standpoint.
Yeah, I've often thought about that, how to use Murray. I mean, he lose Ingram and Kamara together was something special. And then, of course, this year, the past season, using Latavius Murray and Kamara just this didn't look right. And I didn't expect them that would, they bring Latavius in and they'll have the same type of synergy that Ingram had. I wasn't anticipating that at all. I thought that Sean Payton could be able to iron out the wrinkles, so to speak, and be able to get these guys, because it's two different. It should be room for both, being that they're two different type of styles of runners. You have a battering ram in Latavius Murray, who you give for the short yardage game, maybe a red zone weapon to handle the ball to him, and of course you have a guy like Alvin Kamara, who's a satellite back, a guy that can kind of work his magic in space, so to speak, and you can move him around. It's some packages, Terry, where they can put Kamara as a wide receiver and Latavius in there as a running back, give him a fullback, and run. There's so many different ways that you can employ him. You look at the limited use of Latavius Murray last year, and the fact that despite the fact that he wasn't used as much as he should have been used, he still produced a rushing of, he had like 670 something yards, but he was just like 100 or so yards shy of catching what Kamara did on the season. So he was, if you look at it from a yardage standpoint, with his limited use, when he was on the field, he was impactful.
And he's a guy who has to get the ball in order to have that type of impact. I mean, he's used to getting 20, 25 carries a game. And just in Sean Payton's offense, which is use of a dual running back system, I mean, that's just not going to be the case game in and game out. So, him not being able to really produce, catching the ball like Ingram did kind of put him at a detriment. But like you said, there are still multiple packages that he could be in the game alongside of Kamara to be able to have a little more production and have him get into the game a little more if Payton would utilize him in the correct way. And hopefully he revisits that, he regroups that, and there's some more, packages for Murray to, have some success in the game, because I think he's a really good back. I mean, and he really is. I mean, like I said, he can do a lot of good things on the field, but he has to get those touches and be put in the correct position in order to thrive and succeed. And I think Payton should revisit that. And like you said, put some different wrinkles in there so you can still have success with him and Kamara on the field together, and just kind of see where the offense can go from there.
Oh, excellent. And most certainly excellent. I hope they also, Payton, if they call the NFL a copycat league, and it most certainly is, I hope that Sean Payton kind of looks at what the San Francisco 49ers did and how they unleashed that three-headed running back attack. I mean, that could really be something that the Saints could utilize to their benefit down here in New Orleans. And I just think that if you're going to have three running backs on the active roster, some kind of way you got to figure out how to add them into the package, even if the third running back is somebody you can roll out late in the game, especially if he's a north-south runner like Dwayne Washington, who you can put on a tired defense to pound them for extra yardage. Terry got a question here from the chat from Derek Lockett. Who that to you, Derek? He said, what's your thoughts on defensive end pass rusher needs behind Cam and Davenport? Should it be addressed in free agency or the draft? What's your thought process on that, Terry?
Ooh, that's a good question right there. You still have Hendrickson there, so I mean you got a little bit of depth there. If you want to take a look at Everson Griffin potentially, if he's for the right price, I don't think that as at the moment defensive line is such the greatest need that they have right now. But I can see them trying to address that, due to looks like Davenport's early injury history that he's had with the Saints so far. Right. He's been nicked up and bruised up the first couple of years of his season. And I mean, for them to having given up a first round pick, I mean, I'm sure they're expecting more production out of him. I can see them addressing somebody at a cheap price if they can try to get somebody to add a little more depth to the defensive line. I think they are pretty comfortable as they stand right now with how that defensive line looks, provided that Rankins can potentially come back from his injury that he sustained again last year. But defensive line, I don't see them addressing that right away. But if somebody comes up on their radar, whether through free agencies, somebody gets cut from a team, or they just see a real value guy that they're looking at in the draft a little later on, I would not be surprised to see, Sean take a look at somebody in that spot right there.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been advocating, Terry, for some time, about the third pass rusher there, the situational pass rusher position. And we've been kind of having guys that have not been able to consistently fulfill that position. I mean, you have guys like Trey Hendrickson, who has been here for some time, and Trey Hendrickson is consistently hurt. he like last year, he played well when he was there, then disappeared. We had Carl Granderson, who was a huge question mark, who looked good in part. Then you had Noah Spence that came aboard. And of course they had guys like Edwards Jr., Mario Edwards Jr., who was there, who's not really it's not really his forte of pass rushing, but they were using him there as well. He has a high motor. But that is something I've been advocating. Like we need to find an answer there, because when Davenport was absent in the games, when he went on to the injury list, that pass rushing support from that side was non-existent. We could not get pressure on the quarterback, especially in the playoff game. We could not pressure Kirk Cousins. And then it turns out that Cam Jordan was suffering and playing with an injury, and he was less impactful. So most certainly need to have more pass rushing coming from that. You mentioned Clay Matthews, who's actually a pretty good person to look at there. I talked about Josh Golden and Everson Griffin. I don't know. I don't even look at the salary cap anymore, because if I'm thinking Everson,
Loomis can
right,
you
know what I'm saying? If Everson Griffin is there, he's still on the market, and I'm hearing ramblings about Seattle, I'm hearing ramblings about Cleveland, I'm hearing, and I'm saying to myself, listen, if the Saints if the theme is to count and rely on the veterans to teach the young guys, because this is Super Bowl or bust year, we need to focus on that pass rusher. We need somebody. And of course, Sean Payton loves to pilfer Minnesota Vikings. I mean, he did it last year. So why not get one of the biggest ones that you can get in terms of the pass rushing and Everson Griffin, and team him with Cam Jordan and move Davenport to the situational pass rusher, who's basically playing situational pass rushing reputations now because he's been hurt the last couple of years. Yeah. What's your thought process on that, Terry?
I can see that 100%. The issue is that having that pass rusher is such a high value need, is that sometimes you end up pricing yourself out of the market because of every other team wanted the same thing that you do. I mean, you look at guys like Everson Griffin, Davion Clowney. I mean, they're talking about Clowney commanding $15-20 million a year. Right. He's at that pass rushing position. So I do think having another guy there, who can get after it on the other side of Jordan, who can consistently do it, is a very key thing to do.
Right.
I just still kind of think they're trying to justify that first round pick on Davenport, hoping that he can stay healthy for a full season and be able to produce the way they think he can. Right. I don't think Payton's ready to just give up on him and just say, hey, we know we wasted the first round pick moving up to get this guy. I think he still want to give him a fair shake at it and just try to maybe add some more depth behind there. But I mean, like you said, if you've got two top end pass rushers, man, I mean, you've got everything you need set right there to be able to get to the quarterback. And in today's game, that's what it's all about, getting to that quarterback each and every play.
And I agree with you, Terry. I think that if we're going to go all in, we pushing all our chips to the table and we doubling down. Drew Brees is saying this is his final year. And I'm asking you your question about his contract after we get over this one. I want to get your thoughts on, do you think that he plays that second year of the agreement? It looked like it to me. I'm going to get your thoughts in a minute. But if we putting all our chips to the table there and we saying, listen, man, we are going to the Super Bowl. We're not letting anything stop us here. We got to get this right. I don't know if we should play around with developmental pass rushers and their potentiality at the position if we really want to get the situation correct. So, that's something. Let me ask you this, Terry. Clay Matthews. Would Clay Matthews, in your opinion, fit there as a situational pass rusher? Could he do that? Could he line up at it? Because I think my recollection, I've seen him play a little DN at times. Green Bay moved him on the line at times. Did the Rams do that last year to help him get them sacks, or was that something exclusively that was done from his linebacker position?
The Rams did that a few times where they actually put him on the line. I've seen a couple times we had his hand in the dirt playing that D position, and either they will try to fool the defense and let him rush, try to use the speed to get around that tackle, or let him actually back off in coverage. So he has been playing some defensive line in some key situations, and a guy like that would be perfect for situational football because that's what he does best. Him trying to have a nose for the football, getting in the backfield, disruption, getting to the quarterback is his forte. So having a guy like that could potentially do wonders for the Saints pass rush, especially in situational circumstances. It's just a matter of is his price right? Does he want to come to New Orleans? And could there be some type of agreement right there? But I think, like you mentioned earlier, having another pass rusher, on that defense, opposite side of Cam Jordan, who can consistently get there on third downs to get the defense off the field, get the ball back in the offense's hands, is very paramount. So, that should be something they can consider. I just don't know if they can get that top-end guy because of what the market value is for a guy like that. But, hey, if it's Super Bowl or bust, you do what you need to do.
That's true, Terry. I agree with you. And it fits your paradigm of if, them giving Davenport an opportunity to develop at that defensive end position. If you do sign Clay Matthews and you bring him in probably on a 1 or 2 year deal, which does not affect what Davenport is there, and he fits right there at that situational position and comes in and have an immediate impact. So, or you can move him at the linebacker position, which is something the Saints really love, the versatility of its players to play multiple positions. So he does fit there. And like you said, I don't know what the market is on Clay Matthews but right now it seems to me a lot of the defensive players are kind of in a pause and wait moments, like a lull right now in free agency, where you don't see Griffin or Clowney or none of these guys going anywhere. So I get, like Schefter said, I remember hearing some time ago, he said, if you hadn't gotten your money now, the market's not going up, it's going down at this point. So, I tend to have to agree with that. Okay, let's go into the next question I wanted to ask you about Drew Brees. You seen Drew Brees. You've covered that. What's your thought process on Drew Brees' contract? Do you believe that he plays in the second year, looking at that money? I'm looking at that contract there, Terry, and I'm going to tell you something, man. To me, I don't know. I'm kind of finicky on it, but it do look like it's set up for a second year based upon how this one ends. What's your thought on that?
It looks like it's exactly set up for a second year. Way the cap hits, if he was to, accept that second year, then I think it looks like it's set up for him to play additional 2 years. And if the reports are true, guys like Ian Rappaport were at first reporting that Drew was actually 50-50 at the Pro Bowl, whether or not he was going to actually return for another season with the Saints. But whatever changed his mind, it looks like the way the numbers are structured, that it's a definite 2 more years for Drew to play with the Saints. And let me tell you, I think a guy like Tom Brady actually joined the Buccaneers, and the competitive fire that Drew has is actually going to lead Drew to play 2 more years, Super Bowl or bust this year, because I don't think he wants to miss a chance to take Brady down a notch in his legacy and show that, hey, I'm the alpha dog in this thing right now. So I think that kind of fuels a little fire for Drew as well. And I think there's no doubt Drew wants to play Brady at least 4 more times, 2 this year and 2 more next year. So I think Drew's in here for the 2 years, regardless of a Super Bowl this year or whatever the results may be. Barring some type of, career-ending injury, I think Drew's going to play 2 more years the way the contract's set up. And like I said, the way Brady's in the division up, I don't think Drew wants to miss that opportunity.
Hey, that's how I see it, Terry. I see it the same way. And then, of course, you can add fuel to the fire by saying, look at what Emmanuel Sanders' contract is. It's a 2-year contract. You can look at Malcolm Jenkins' contract. It says a 4-year contract, but actually, if you look at the numbers, it can be voided after 2 years. So in essence,
so a lot of
the playmakers that we have a 2-year window if you're peering deep enough into it. Okay, Terry, thank you for that. We got a few questions from the chat here. The first one here, who that to you, Josh Hoover? I see you, Josh Hoover, great Saints think tank member from Minnesota chiming in, and big ups to you. I see you, Michael Rios. Who that to you, Michael? Good to see both of y'all in the chat. His question is, do you think the Saints were fishing when they put a first-round tender on Taysom? I really want them to go after Hurts, and I agree with you about Davenport. He's basically a situational pass rusher. Terry, what's your thought process on them fishing with Taysom?
I think they were, and I think they were trying to see if somebody would take the bait off of something and try to snag another first-round pick out of them. I think, like you mentioned earlier, that because of some of the behind-the-scenes moves and what we're kind of doing but not really saying, that they really don't think Taysom is going to be that future-type franchise quarterback that they had, because, like you said, they thought he was. He'd have played the 5 games that Drew Brees missed. He'd have been under center instead of Teddy Bridgewater. Some of the other things that were done, that'd have been Taysom having that, long-term contract and not that 1-year tender right there. So I do think they were trying to fish and see maybe if a team would bite take a chance on him. If the market got too high, the Saints wouldn't match any deal and therefore get that first-round pick. But, I think just a little gamesmanship going on by the Saints right there. Put a player that other teams may value out there. If we think that value is too high that they're offering, well, we'll get some compensation back for it. So I think that's pretty good gamesmanship on the Saints part in that regard.
I agree with you. I think they definitely was doing that, doing the efficient thing right there and putting it out there. And no doubt about it, I think ultimately, basically what it boils down to is what it's about $5 million that the Saints could sign Taysom Hill for to bring him back, and pretty much he'll play. And I say it'll be what the tenders is $5 something odd million for 1 year. That's what I think. That's what it's going to break down to be, and people are going to be.
We agree on that.
I mean, Terry, just people don't see. I'm saying that Sean doesn't see him as the future of the franchise as quarterback as we see him. Okay, next question is coming from Demi. Who that to you, Demi? She says, "Q, ask Terry, do you think we should draft the QB? If so, which one? Sorry if you answered this question earlier. I feel we should. What's your thoughts on that, Terry?"
I feel we should as well. Like I said, we talked about Jalen Hurts, if he would have fallen in the third round, being a nice fit piece for the Saints because of his athletic ability, because of the way, his leadership abilities, how he carries himself. A guy like that could be very well be put in the black and gold for the future. A lot of people at first were talking about the quarterback from Utah State, Jordan Love. There's some tape on him. He plays in a lesser conference, so you don't really know if he's that quarterback because of the level of competition that he's really playing. But that's a guy that could potentially get a couple looks depending on how things shake out, for the Saints and where he may fall into that, realm, depending on what happens at the top of the draft with the higher profile quarterback. So I think they could take a look at another quarterback. I can see them also bringing in a veteran guy. If they were able to tender Hill and keep him on their 1 year deal, I can see you bring the veteran guy in. Like we said earlier, we do think Drew's going to play those 2 years, so you still potentially have some chance to, look for somebody next year. But third round, I think if Hurts is there, I think you snatch him up.
Yes. No doubt about it. We covered that before we talked about it. If Jalen Hurts is sitting there in the third round when the Saints come up, you better take him. Because Sean Payton, with an imagination with him offensively, he can utilize Jalen Hurts in the Saints offense. Remember when the Saints went to a three quarterback play when they lined Drew out at wide receiver? Imagine if the Saints actually had those three. You know what I'm saying, Terry? Where they would have Drew out there at quarterback, and then you put Jalen Hurts on one side, Taysom on the other. Could you imagine the kind of mischief that Sean Payton can make offensively speaking with that level of talent on the team? And it brings that athleticism, high IQ, and it really helps the future look better when you seeing Jalen Hurts there. Trust me, you better grab him if he's there, because I'd rather have him playing for us than to play against us. Big ups to the family members chiming in. Lance Kelly, good to see you chiming in as well, family. Big ups to you as we keep rolling. I see you, DJ. Who that to you, DJ? Big ups to you as well. DJ has a question. What's your question there, DJ? Let me see here. I think I had one from DJ. Let's see here. I think DJ's asking about the XFL. Do the Saints take a quarterback out of the XFL? Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one. Terry, what do you think about that? Taking a quarterback out there? Most of the ones that were actually pretty productive have already gone. The guy from the St. Louis
Houston
team.
St. Louis team and one from Houston went as well. The name escapes me right now.
Walker.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. I mean, that could be it's hard to really gauge because of, the shortened sample size that you got, with the XFL, not exactly knowing the level of talent that's actually there. Mm-hmm. It could be something that they look at, but I really don't think they go in that direction, because I think if they did, they probably have done so by now. If there was just a top cream of the crop guy who could potentially, be somebody who can be productive in the NFL, I think they would have looked going that route already. But being that it's kind of late in the game, the draft is coming up, and there's still some veteran free agent guys out there that they could potentially take a look at who have NFL experience, I don't think that's a route right now they will consider looking at.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Terry. I think you look at some of the XFL guys, Jordan Tahamu, who used to be an Ole Miss quarterback collegiately. He ended up his career, he really didn't make it in the NFL. The XFL kind of resurrected him. The Kansas City Chiefs picked him up. And of course, we know about PJ Walker, who just been very fortunate because the coach of the Carolina Panthers was the former coach of Temple, where he came from, and that familiarity. So it was kind of amazing to get him to go to Carolina with Mike Rule, and also Keith Kirkwood, who played at Temple, is following them there as well. Big ups to Iceman joining us in the live stream as well. And we got one more question. We're gonna chime out for Terry Kimble. And for those who don't know, we got Mr. Terry Kimble. He's on the line right now, Who Dat Dish Saints contributor, and he's been dropping knowledge for the duration of the time that he's been in. We appreciate the hell out of the man coming in, giving us some time and sharing and dropping some knowledge on the Great Saints Think Tank members. Okay, now let's see. The question here is about Michael. Here's Michael Rios. He says, do you think that all this restructuring contracts and paying them later will hurt us in the long run with cap space? What do you think about that, Terry?
Only time will tell. Because this isn't the first time that, Loomis has done something like this. He's been kind of doing this for a couple of years. So, like I said, only time will tell whether or not, some of that back end stuff may catch up with us, and all these cap hits may take effect of what we, have to spend in the future. But, I trust Mickey Loomis's judgment, knowing what we're trying to go for right now. We know with Drew being, 41 years old, that window is closing, and the NFL really stands for not for long. So you got to kind of strike while the iron's hot and kind of worry about what you need to worry about later. If we're trying to win the Super Bowl this year, kind of can't worry about what salary cap's going to look like in 2021, 2022, and beyond. We kind of have to concentrate on the present. And then right now, I think Loomis has done a bang-up job restructuring guys and, putting dead money to the back end, making voidable contracts, extending other guys. So I think you kind of have to worry about that when that happens. You hope you don't get to a situation where you're kind of stuck with so much dead money that you can't do anything else. But for the present time, wanting to win the Super Bowl this year is what you have to concentrate on.
Oh, Terry, that's words of wisdom, my friend. And I've often said about it as far as the cap situation go. I've told GM Kev and other Great Saint Think Tank members, when it comes down to salary cap numbers in New Orleans, if anybody can get away with it, it's the black and gold himself. You have the way they are actually drafting right now, and they're getting so much value and production from the players that they're picking up in the draft. It's out of worldly how we're just getting that kind of production, and those draft contracts are very inexpensive. So we as long as we continue to draft well, and then we do get those smart veteran pickup contracts that really don't hurt the team as bad as you think they are. Getting a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, what he brings, basically a plug and play option, and then Malcolm Jenkins's deal at Voids. Now, of course, they put some money on Andrews Pete that made him one of the top 3 or top 4 highest paid offensive linemen, guards in the league, which is fine. But you know what the Saints are going to do with Andrews Pete. They're going to get that versatility out of Andrews if they need to move him all the way around on that line, wherever they need him at. Right. So that's what I'm saying. They'll get that versatility out of him. So, when it comes down to capnomics, and you talk about the black and gold, for how long has it been? We've been sitting at this level and watching the Saints. When people say we don't have any money, the money's not there. And you keep seeing them bring impact players to the team. It's just amazing. Mickey Mouse, Loomis, Jeff Ireland for president, like Scoob says on the stream. So it's just a lot of great. Terry, Jeff Ireland for president, like Scoob says from the Great Saints Think Tank family. Who that to you, Paul, joining the live stream as well. But hey, Terry, I like to thank you for chiming in with the Great Saints Think Tank, man. Thank you for giving us your time, your knowledge, bro. We appreciate your wisdom, dropping it on the family, man. We appreciate your time here, man.
Big Q, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate really what you do, all the thousands of listeners that you have out there, and just bringing a platform in this time of need. Somebody who can passionately talk about the Saints, somebody who can just shoot straight from the hip and really think how the people are thinking out here. I really appreciate the platform that you have out there. And to everybody in the think tank, I just want to let everybody know, to God bless, be safe during these trying times. This, pandemic is going on out there. Take care of yourself, take care of others, look out for yourself, look out for others, and we're going to get through this. And before you know, man, who that's going to be football season, man.
That's right, Terry. Appreciate that, man. The words of wisdom and those warm compliments. And I'll tell you what, I want all the great Saint Think Tank family members out there that hear me across the country, across the world. I want everybody to look up Terry Kimble's articles on Who Dat Dish. The brother got some, he landed down really excellent comments and commentary going down. I want y'all to go and read his articles and share them on your feeds, man. We got this brother here, got it together with his Saints knowledge. And you know what I always say, you got to support your own. You got to support the black and gold. If you see the black and gold family out there doing it big, you got to get behind them and you got to promote them. We got to promote brother Kimble here. You heard him. His Saints knowledge was on full display out here, and I know a lot of the family members appreciate you as well. So I want everybody remember to go to Who Dat Dish, look up Terry Kimble, get his articles, and share them on your social feeds and put them out there. Thank you, brother Terry. Appreciate you, and stay close, my brother. Down the line, I want you to come on back after the draft and kind of, give me your thoughts and everything on the draft. Is that fine?
It'll be an honor, Big Q, if you can have me on again, man. I really appreciate this, sir.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate you, my brother. Who dat to you, and be blessed.
Who dat, be blessed as well.
That's Terry, family, from Who Dat Dish. Enjoyed the brother, man. For y'all that just chiming in, man, y'all missed a wonderful interview session between Terry. And Terry has that knowledge, man, and I appreciate him. And if you listen to Brother Terry, man, Brother Terry sound like he just come right out of the great Saints think tank. And I appreciate the hell out of him for coming up here and sharing some knowledge with us. And remember, family, to go to Brother Terry's page, go to the Who Dat Dish, look up Terry Kimble, and let's help promote the brother. Let's take his articles and let's share them out there. And remember, he also is a Pelican guy too. And when the sports come back, we're going to have Brother Terry to come on to the Pelican post-game report platform and drop his Pelican information because he's a Pelican man as well. So great knowledge, great information from Brother Terry. And I appreciate the hell out of him for chiming in. Great insight. Great insight on the Saints. Who that to you, superstar Louisiana boy? Who that to you? Who that to you, Paul? Who that to your family dropping in, chiming in as well? Venom Rage, who that to you? I see you there, family. Good to see you, Josh. Hoover says, Q&T, what do y'all think about trading? I wish I would have seen your question, Joshua, before I let Terry go. I would have had him to answer it. But he says, what do you think about trading back from the first to get more picks, but specifically, even if they reach for Hurts and KJ Hill? Also say we need that Thad Moss to eventually replace Cook. That's interesting. Josh, thanks for the question. Trading back in the draft is definitely a possibility. That the Saints are looking to acquire more picks. But when you're sitting at 24, you have the mindset to take the highest player on your board, regardless of what he is. Might be an offensive lineman, might be a defensive back, might be I wouldn't say it would be a running back, but I think the Saints take everybody, an offensive lineman, perhaps a defensive lineman, a linebacker, a defensive back, everybody with that 24th pick, except for a quarterback, unless it's a guy that falls to him like a Jordan Love. And I dare say that Sean could possibly be, and Mickey could be possibly motivated to move up if Jordan Love is still on the board. You never know how these drafts are going to play. That's the excellent thing about the whole scenario. The Saints still have time to address some of the needs, the pass rusher and the linebacker position. They can still address some of these things going into next week. And of course, when the draft occurs, we have to sit and see how exactly it'll play. But it's a possibility that the black and gold could trade back in the draft to acquire more picks, because I'm an advocate of getting more picks. I think the more picks you have, the better the Saints make out moving forward, to be quite honest with you. I really do think that. Look at the draft. I've been covering it for some time, and it is deep. The running back position, I would love to have Thad Moss on the team. I would love to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the team. I would love to have that. I would love to have the pass rusher and the linebacker like Pat Queen or Murray. Who knows how it'll shake out? perhaps the Saints will take capital from next year's draft or the draft after to move a little closer. But see, people say, well, Q, they don't want to jeopardize the second. Let me tell you, like Terry talked about it, we mentioned it as well, and he agrees with the Great Saints think tank members pretty much about the quarterback, about the Drew Brees second year of the deal. And I looked at it, I said, man, this is second. Drew Brees is not going to retire after this year. He's going to play the next year. I said, why would he come for 1 year and all these other guys got 2? Look at Emmanuel Sanders' contract. It's a 2-year contract. You think Drew plays for 1 year and then goes and then no. Drew's going to play 2 years. And if you don't know, now you know. Emmanuel Sanders for 2 years. Malcolm Jenkins' contract, they say it's a 4-year deal, but it really could break down a 2-year deal when you look at it. They can void after the second year. So it's setting up well. It's a window of 2 years. And that changes everything if you're thinking about the quarterback position. Like Terry mentioned it, he may mention the fact that the Saints could wait till next year to draft. That's to take a quarterback. That's a possibility. My thing is, if Jalen Hurts is there and he falls to you there, take him. The only time that Sean Payton will take a quarterback in the first round is if Jordan Love, because they are really high on Jordan Love. If he's at 24, they'll take him. But any other way, I can't see it. But as far as what you're talking about, trading back, I would be an advocate of that. If the man that you're not looking for isn't there, then of course it'll be a good idea to kind of trade back. Thank you for that question, Josh. Appreciate some of the black and gold. You also mentioned KJ Hill, who I like KJ Hill, and Thad Moss to replace Cook is interesting because the tight end position is another position the Saints really need to look at. And I think we kind of glossing over that because we're looking at the impact players positions like the defensive end position, the wide receiver position, the linebacker position, and those are needed positions. But if you think about it, how safe and secure are you at the tight end position, knowing that Jared Cook missed as much time as he missed last year for the Saints? I mean, he missed a lot of time for the Saints, and Josh Hill had to fill in. The Saints don't have a third tight end that you can rely on. Not to disrespect the practice squad players, but I'm talking about a guy you actually grooming to take the reins of the tight end position, because that could become problematic. Remember, I've also said that the Saints need a third tight end so they can implement those third tight end packages that they used to be so good at. It wouldn't be bad to have a Thad Moss to come in there, or a tight end that you draft that you could find there maybe in the later rounds, a stud there who you can plug in there to ultimately eventually become the tight end of the future for the team. Because you're right, Jared Cook has 1 year left on his deal. Josh Hill is not the future, and you don't have a active third tight end on your team. Now you do have the other guys like a Vanderhaan and all these other suspect guys who we know absolutely nothing about. But man, the name in this game, you get a Thad Moss and put him there. And where would a Thad Moss go? If you're thinking about it, where would he go? A Thad Moss would probably go somewhere in maybe perhaps the 3rd to 5th round. I mean, he's a talent, man. I would love to get Thad Moss down here and groom him behind a guy like Cook and Hill. No doubt about it. Thank you for the question, Josh. Big ups to you as well. And all the beautiful Black Gold fan. Larry Williams, who that to you, Larry? I see your family. Thank you for joining the chat. Carlito, what up, Carlito? Who that to you? I see your fam. Charles Mayfield, who that to you? Charles, good to see you, fam. He said, if Hurts is there in the 3rd, we got to pull the trigger. Mock draft I did yesterday. I don't know if you're seeing it there. I don't know if you've seen it, fam. But if you want to check it out, we did it last night. I did it live in front of family members. It was pretty fun. Check it out. I pulled the trigger on Jalen Hurts in the 3rd round in my mock draft, and I kept it real. So, I mean, the bottom line is I know we need a quarterback there. Tight end position is a position of need we're not even looking at. But truth be told, Josh, you're absolutely right. We need to look at doing something with the tight end position because we're not as secure as we think we are. We really aren't. If you think about the injuries that Jared Cook had, Josh Hill, and then you don't really have a third tight end. So you make a great point there. We need to focus on that a little more. Thank you for that. Crass says, remember the last time we picked that 24, we got Cam Jordan. That's a great stat there, Crass. Hopefully we can pull another Cam Jordan type player out the room. Iceman says, my thing is, why are the Saints waiting to do anything with Elvin? They either need to trade him or not. Freeing up the money, seeing if they can have an impact player. And I don't know what the conversations that they're having with Elvin Kamara right now about when they are going to make a move to talk to him or extend out some of the players like Kamara or Marshawn Lattimore, or simply the Saints are making moves to acquire players right now, and they're not in a rush to re-sign Kamara or Marshawn Lattimore or Ryan Ramczyk because these guys are already under contract. So they're trying to get players in the door that can impact the Saints and help them. And Emmanuel Sanders is an impact player opposite of Mike Thomas. Malcolm Jenkins is an impact player there. Onyemata's an impact player on the defense. So is Andrews Pete resigning him, and of course Drew Brees as well. So the Saints more slower to deal with the extensions of guys' contracts because they're still under contract versus pulling more talent in the building to help them win now and next year. So that's something maybe we can look at. Now, of course, I would like to see them find out what they're going to do with Kamara, whether or not they're going to extend him the money, or perhaps, you can make a move on him. Perhaps you can, if you're not going to pay him, keep it real. If you're not going to pay him, move him. If you're not going to pay Kamara, move him. Keep it real, right? If you're not going to give me the money that I want and we can't meet where we need to meet to make it happen, the only thing you can do is say, piece me out and I'll go about my merry way. Keep it real in that perspective. But we'll just have to wait and see. I guess it is definitely a waiting game at this point to see where it's headed. Let's keep it moving here. Sean says we can't make the mistake we did with Lamar Jackson. Let's see. Superstar Louisiana boy said running backs are deep in this draft and we cheap. We don't need to be paying these large contracts, etc. Thank you, Superstar Louisiana boy. Larry says we was going to get Lamar. Ravens got him first. Let's see. Devin says still hoping for someone to bite on Taysom. Venom Rage says Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Edwards-Helaire, Swift, Cam Akers, Zach Moss. All those are terrific. Every last one of those running backs that Venom Rage named are absolutely terrific. Those guys can run inside, outside, and they can also catch the ball out the backfield. They're impactful. And I've never seen a class of running backs quite like these. They are fantastic. And Jonathan Taylor highlights the class, even though they say he's not the best of the bunch. It's J.K. Dobbins. A lot of scouts says the better than Jonathan Taylor. He put up 2,000 yards rushing last year. Interesting. This is a very stellar draft class as far as the running back. I'm just hoping we get one late. We're not passing on some of these fantastic running backs. I'm going to keep it real with you. Joshua Hoover says someone could still reach for Hill. Crash says no fool coach will fall for Taysom. Maybe the dumbass coach from the Houston Texans who traded away Hopkins. That's the only simpleton I know that could probably go for that. Michael Real says, watch Sean go get Benjamin Watson out of retirement. I hope not. Please let Benjamin Watson go where he is. I mean, let him stay. Oh, my goodness, Benjamin Watson. Let him stay where he is. Let's find somebody. Let's find some young talent there for the position. Michael. Larry says, Taysom too old. Superstar Louisiana boy says, element of surprise. They already know how to plan for Kamara. Get a stud in the draft. They don't have film on him yet. Charles says Moss could be an absolute beast. Iceman says 9 from Drew coming back for a second year would depend on how he played this season. You can't stink up the joint and then play next season. Sean has to implement the Bill Belichick mindset. That won't happen, Iceman. You know, like I know, and I had Terry to comment on this one, and he said, yeah, Q, no doubt about it. That second year is a playable year. And I looked at the contract and I said, this second year don't look like a voidable year to me. And then if you put the evidence of the 2-year deal that Emmanuel Sanders signed, the 4-year, which is actually a 2-year deal that Malcolm Jenkins signed, and you put those impact veterans with Drew Brees' 4-year contract with 2 playable years, one of which they said that he's going to retire after. I'm telling you, man, don't believe that hype. Don't believe it. I'm telling you, y'all going to see. It don't take much to see it. Look. Crass says, I only wish Thad Moss was taller. Superstar Louisiana Boy says, makes it harder to plan for. Iceman says, you get rid of a player a year too early versus a year too late. Joshua Hoover says, Thad Moss has his dad hands. We need that. Yeah, I'm telling you, Thad Moss could be could help you out. He really could. He could really help you out. I'm just saying he could help you out. The mock draft that I played had him going to Cincinnati. They took him in the 4th round, I think it was, and he going up there to play with Joe Burrow. Molly Mall, who that to you? ATL says, do you listen to any other Saints podcasts? Do I listen to any other Saints podcasts? No, I don't listen to like regularly. Every now and again, when I got the time, I'll something will come across my feed and I'll listen to them. And we got a few other Saints podcasters that have come on to the Great Saints Think Tank and have shown love. They've come on to the stream, and I can't think of some of the Great Saints fans in the Great Saints Think Tank know some of the guys that have other podcasts that came on to the stream. But I've listened to a few of them when I have the time. I don't listen to much because I'm kind of busy. But when it comes across my feed, I do show some support, because how can you ask for support from the family members when you don't show support to other people? Just because, and I've said this, and a lot of these guys have heard me, is the fact that if you have a podcast and you talking about the Saints and I'm talking about the Saints podcast, that still make you my family. I said that. They still consider the Great Saints Think Tank family members. We all talking about the Saints. And it's great because we all talk about the Saints in our own different way. And everybody got a unique niche of how they covering the Saints. That's the beautiful part about it. It's not a competition thing. It's all love and support. And we had some really great guys that came on, and they're really terrific, knowledgeable guys that came on. But the 365 Sport Talk camp that comes on, they talk about the Saints. Big ups to them. There's the Goose Sports camp that shows up time to time and shows support for the stream. Big ups to him. And there's several other really interesting guys as well. There's the brother TJ from the State of the Saints. He popped up here on the Saints live stream, the Great Saints Think Tank. Big ups to TJ. That's another extended family member out there. And then of course there's the young brother from NOS, who's popped up on multiple platforms, multiple shows with the Great Saints Think Tank. Like I said, that's the mindset of us all. It's an extended big family. And most of the family members here, they listen to different Saints podcasts. They know. So, it's a great thing and it's a lovely thing. And, sooner or later, I'm going to be reaching out to a few of them guys and bringing them into the Great Saints Think Tank. And we have a big powwow. We talk about the Saints. So y'all be expecting that coming down the line. Thank you for that question there, Molly Moore. Kevin says Saints will definitely pick up the 5th-year option on Ramczyk and Lattimore. Iceman says it seems like the Saints always like a QB, but someone always draft them before we can. That is the point. Derek says, Iceman, we don't have a 7. Demi says, Q, what do you think about Elvin's worth? Elvin sees himself as a double-digit guy annually, Demi. He sees himself as a $10 million guy season. He won't get that kind of money. You have Derrick Henry, which is weird, and Derrick's got to be pissed. If I was Derrick Henry, I'd be pretty pissed because the Titans signed Ryan Tannehill to a big old contract, and he got his money before a lot of people did. And if it wasn't for Derrick Henry running the ball, Tannehill would look half as well as he did. It was because of the running game of Henry that gave the balance to the offense that made Tannehill look a lot better than what he was supposed to look. But the quarterback got the money. That has to piss you off to a degree, because even though people are telling you that your position is devalued, you are the top of the hill in terms of the running back situation. So if anybody should be getting that kind of money, it should be Derrick Henry. But they don't want to pay you. But sometimes You got some kind of way you got to collect it. Whether it's they don't want to pay you the money annually. That is the correct way of saying it. They're saying that the running back position is devalued. Listen, the running backs can still get paid, but teams do not want to pay the running backs big money annually. So how would you then collect if they don't want to give you the big annual money? There are all kinds of ways that you can collect. You'll see a big fat ass signing bonus where he'll take 20 something odd million or whatever it is, and then his money will be like his yearly contract will be like $6 or $7 million, but he'll get a big fat signing bonus and incentives throughout his contract. That's how running backs are going to collect their money, through the signing bonuses and incentive latest in the contract, being that you get so many touchdowns, being that if you lead the NFL in rushing, if your team gets to the playoffs, all those incentives laced into the contract will help running backs get paid. So they don't want to pay the running backs the big double-digit money, but trust and believe, for every rule, there's somebody to break it. And Christian McCaffrey is going to bust that to hell, because he will get double-digit money, annual money on the season. Double-digit meaning annual money that he'll get. He'll get that double-digit money. Thank you for that question, Demi. Crash says, what about Emmanuel Sanders' move? He understood mesh concepts, West Coast offense. He's still a superior route runner. Brees has another weapon. Love it. Love it, Crash. It was a good move. The contract wasn't really that bad. They're paying him $8 million a year for 2 years. And I like the fact that he'll be complimented with Mike Thomas, and you can move him inside, outside, wherever you need him. He brings his experience, a highly productive, intelligent, and very good dude in the locker room. And he'll teach. And one of the things the 49ers young wide receivers were saying is that he was a tutor, a mentor to them, teaching them the concepts of route running. That's just what a guy like Traquan Smith need. That's just what a guy like LaJordan Humphreys need. That's just the type of guy that Emmanuel Sanders would need. A guy like Emmanuel Butler would need. Emmanuel Sanders is the type of wide receiver that it will bring value to the position. I absolutely love it. And the money works too. And the money works. Charles says, Mel, this is the best one, bro. Molly Moore says, yeah, I know I'm a Falcons fan. I heard a couple other Saints podcasts. Hands down, I subscribe to this one because it's real fans. Thank you, Molly Moore. That's a compliment there, man. Thank you, Molly Moore, who's an Atlanta man, an Atlanta fan that's telling the Great Saints think tank that he listens to all other Saints podcasts, but he only subscribed to this one. Thank you. That's a compliment. That means we doing something right over here at the Great Saints Think Tank. Anytime you get a Falcons man to subscribe to your Saints podcast, man, you doing something. You are doing something. And I really kind of said something kind of profound too, some shows ago, when I was saying the world is coming to an end, and when you see Atlanta and Saints fans having dialogue together in the same chat. I must have brought some shit on the world. I didn't even know what I was talking about. Oh, I seen something coming. Anyway, that's a joke, family. But listen, family, it's good to have you in here, Molly Mall, and I thank you for the compliment, family. Big ups to you. Let's see. Crash says, Hilaire went to my high school. Terrific kid. Hope he does well in NFL. Thank you for that, Crash. Big ups to you. Iceman says, Derek, Lord have mercy. JT, who that says, don't be shocked. Sean Payton draft the left tackle. Wouldn't be shocked. I said it, that the Saints could take anybody at the 24 position if they don't trade back or trade up if there's somebody there for them. Think about it like this. Offensive line, they still need depth in offensive line position. A guy that can play the tackle and guard position because, of course, Larry Warford is getting old in the tooth. He has 1 year left on his contract. The Saints could fill that role with a young, cheap cheap rookie. Of course, they can look at drafting a defensive lineman to come in, an edge rusher that could be there. There could be a defensive back the Saints see there. Maybe if Grant Delpit is there, you think the Saints won't take Grant Delpit? Hell yeah, they'll take Grant Delpit and release the hell out of DJ Swearinger. He'll compete in camp or what have you, but there's many roles you can use Grant Delpit in. If he's there, you think the Saints going to pass on him? Don't count on it. The linebacker position, that's definitely a thing, but only 2 linebackers are worthy of a first-round pick, right? Either Queen or Murray. They are things. So it's several positions that you can go as far as that goes for the Saints. I don't anticipate the Saints taking a quarterback with the pick or running back. I would be surprised if they did that. Took either a quarterback or a running back with the first round draft pick. Just keeping it real with you. Unless Love was there and they jumped up to go and get him. That's the only guy I see that they will move to go. But anybody outside of quarterback, running back, and a kicker and a punter, I see the Saints taking with that first round draft pick if they don't trade back. Thank you, fam. Kevin says, for people just coming in, y'all missed a good interview earlier. Yeah, we had Terry Kimble from Who Dat Dish. He was the Saints contributor. Man, Terry is a good dude, man. I want y'all to go to Who Dat Dish and get the man's articles. The guy is he's an honorary Great Saints think tank member. He's a member. He's an honorary Great Saints think tank member. He think just like us, man. He was dropping the knowledge. Y'all have to listen to it when the show go final. Go back and listen to it. Big ups to Terry, and thank you, brother, for coming on in there. Let's keep it going. I'm going to try to get through as many of them as I can, family. Joshua says, Q, did Vic Beasley get signed yet? Yes, he is got signed. Beasley was signed by, who was Beasley signed by, y'all? He was signed by somebody. I can't remember exactly who he was signed by. Was it the Titans? I think it was the Titans. The Titans signed him. He said, what about Griffin and Beasley? Each 2-year prove it with high incentives. Beasley's gone. I think the Titans did get him. Griffin is negotiating. Well, I ain't gonna say negotiating, but they have several teams chasing him right now. Rumors is the Cowboys, the Browns, the Seahawks, and I don't know if the Saints. There's nothing rumored about the Saints being in there, but they're looking at him, looking past Jadeveon Clowney because of Clowney's high and ridiculous money demands. And Griffin is a guy that is looking for a place to play. Man, the black and gold will be perfect for him. We'll see how it plays. Thank you for the question. Charles says, I bet if Drew don't play up to par, I don't know he'll play the next season. Well, if he don't play up to par, he'd be pissed off to come back and prove that he could play. That's how stubborn Drew Brees is, Charles. You know, to be honest with you. That's a stubborn ass dude, man. A lot of people, you see how he was cutting up or acting when he was out the few games that Teddy Bridgewater was playing? Boy, you ain't have nobody wanted to stand around Drew. Drew was standing up by himself, chewing that gum hard, eating them sunflower seeds hard. Drew Brees didn't. He wasn't a pleasant person to be around. That's certainly. And he's a very prideful person. If he stinks it up next year, you better believe he's going to come back just to write it. He's not going to retire on a stinky year. Drew Brees is just not that type of dude. He's going to give you everything he got and then some. And, and just to make a statement that just from an observation level, you look at what the Saints have done over the few years here in the playoffs, and they make too many freaking mistakes in the playoffs. They become double thumb Johnny in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? They just can't hold nothing in their hands. Everything is just mistake ridden in the playoffs, and they have to stop that. If they play, and I'm trying to look at, and I'm saying it's psychological here, because how could you look so good in a regular season, 13-3, 2 years in a row, and get to the playoffs and make all these mistakes? I mean, what is going on here? This is a veteran team, and only thing you have to do is be disciplined and eliminate the mistakes. So my question is, I know the talent's there. I know the intelligence is there. I know the scheme is there, but is the discipline there? That's the question that I have to ask the Saints, the latest rendition of the Saints team. Is the discipline there? Is the discipline, because you have the talent. You have the intelligence. You have the scheme. You have everything that you need, but the question is, do you have the discipline? If you don't have the discipline, none of that other stuff don't matter. You're going to always get up to a point and fall short, because when you get to a point, you got to have all those things to open that door to get through it. You can't open that door with that 4-prong lock. You need 5-prong key to open that lock. And the Saints have to be disciplined enough to eliminate the mistakes. And if you look at the last several playoff games that they've played in, man, they've been mistake ridden, not from the other team, by their own hands. So I'm like, my question is, where is the discipline of this team? Do they have a champion's discipline? That's what's called upon. It takes discipline to control yourself, to not make or commit the errors or the miscues that will stop you. Where is that discipline? That's the question I have. I know about the talent. I know about the mindset. I know about all the other intangibles that make a champion. But where is the discipline? That will keep you in one piece. It'll keep you focused. It will keep you determined. It will make sure that you don't commit error after error after error, like we've been seeing in the playoffs. Terrible play where they have to play from behind to get a chance to win these games. Turning the ball over with fumbles, interceptions, and the likes. It just, where is the discipline? Do we have a champion's discipline this year? That's what it comes down to. And that's the question I put out there. Travis Johnson, Who Dat He says, we really don't need a QB. Hill is a beast, and preseason, he's going to show why he needs to be in a starting position. However, on the flip side, Brees is not going to retire until Tom Brady leaves. That's what Terry thought. Terry Kimble, who was here early, felt the same way, that Drew's going to play. He's a prideful dude, man. If nobody don't know that Drew Brees is a prideful dude, I don't know if you know your quarterback or not. That dude is super prideful. Uber prideful is Drew Brees. He remember the time when Teddy Bridgewater was winning those games, and then they said Drew would come back after the bye week, which was the Atlanta game. The game before the bye week was the Arizona game. Teddy was supposed to play that game. Drew Brees pushed himself back into the that's a prideful ass dude. You thinking that guy is going to sit down and let Tom Brady play an extra year? Ain't no way in the world. Tom Brady comes into your division, Drew Brees, that he's been dominating for over 10 years now. Come into your division and say, I'm coming. I'm going to win a championship, or he's thinking about playing for Super Bowls. Well, guess who the hell he got to go through to get there? He got to go through you, Drew Brees, and the New Orleans Saints to get there. So if you don't take that as a direct threat and a charge, hey, whether or not you believe he can do it or not, there's some gun coming into your territory, in your neighborhood, and say there's a new king in town, and his name is Tom Brady, and I got all the hardware, and I'm in the building. Listen to me now. It ain't like he staying in the AFC with the Denver Broncos or somebody. He comes to Tampa to play the Saints twice, and we know that he chasing Drew Brees for his records. When Drew broke the records, who was tweeting last year about challenges and all that, congratulating and then backhanding it with knowing that he coming for him. Come on, Tom Brady don't want to leave Drew Brees with nothing except for second place. He have all the championship, the Super Bowls. You know Drew not gonna catch that. But Tom wants all the Super Bowls, and he wants the rings. He got all the rings, but he wants the stats to go with him. He wants to leave Drew Brees with second place. And a lot of the stats that Drew has, Tom Brady is not too far from catching them. He's right there. So you thinking that he'll sit down and let Tom catch up, man, y'all better look again. Look at that contract. Number speaks. Remember that old saying about money talk, bullshit walk? Money talking now. Joshua said, well, there's a few players still out there looking for money, but the cost has gone way down. Now we need to be aggressive not to lose the window for Brees. Crash says, Travis, we don't need a QB. Josh says, I disagree. We do need a QB to groom behind Brees. Crash says, Josh, we do need a QB. See the other guy's comments. He doesn't think we need to draft one. Kevin says the franchise tag for Henry is $10 million. Wow. I'm telling you, he might not get the $10 million a year. He might get $6 or $7 million, but watch the signing bonus. And then incentive laden, he'll make the annual money back up into incentives, touchdowns, rushing attempts, or rushing yards, depending on if you leading the league in rushing or the NFC in rushing, if you make the Pro Bowl. All that's laced in where he eventually could earn the money anyway. But that's how they want it for the running backs. But he'll get a big fat signing bonus. If he settles for $7 million, the next year will be $8 million, $9 million. They'll backload it. And then when it ultimately happens, he'll get a big fat ass signing bonus. Watch, you're going to see. This stuff ain't hard to figure out now. Joshua said, let's go steal Henry from the Titans. Molly Mall says, I don't what people are seeing, but Jonathan Taylor is the best back in the draft than Swift. There's DeAndre Swift they're talking about. There's J.K. Dobbins. And Swift is a beast from Georgia. I got to give it up. Big props to the SEC guys. And Swift is talented. But Jonathan Taylor, who rushed for 2,000 yards, is special. I mean, man, in my opinion, you got to look at it. Jonathan Taylor to me is spectacular. I love what Swift did with Georgia. And then I'm looking at guys like J.K. Dobbins. I mean, good grief, man. That is talent all over the place. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there and all them other dudes. Man, come on. That's why I said you need more picks, man. There's too many great players out there. Dada says, I disagree. We do need a QB. Taysom Worth comes being a gadget dude, not sitting behind Drew. Devin says Taysom is not the future. If we can get one of these QBs, we should. Let me tell you something, bro. When the Saints re-sign Taysom on the tender, if nobody else signs him, how much you guys want to bet that it'll be for a 1-year deal? Then what would you say? If the Saints sign Taysom Hill for a 1-year tender deal, what you say then? Is he still a future of the team? If he was the future of the team, right, why did he try to go and negotiate with Teddy Bridgewater before Carolina signed him? Why go back and talk to him? Why not go and talk to Taysom and get a 3-year deal done like he said he was supposed to do? Remember that? Very interesting. Let's see. Cress says D. Henry would have played versus the Saints. Think we would have lost that one. Oh, we'd have most certainly lost that game if he would have played against the Saints. If he would have laced him up and played against the Saints the way the Saints allowed the Cook to run through him and the backup running back from Minnesota Vikings, ain't no doubt about it. That would have definitely that guy, the way he runs, it would have been very difficult for the Saints to stop that man, and that could have definitely given Tennessee the advantage. Tyra, who that to you, Tyra? Good to see you, baby. Welcome in. Charles says, I'm with you, bro. Superstar Louisiana boy said, guess we'll never know. Amali Mall says, Dada, man, I've been in the crib, bored as hell in Atlanta. All right, Dada says, tell the truth. Taysom hasn't played a whole game at QB, but you will make him believe he's ready to take the field. Hell no. Thank you there, Dada. Joshua Hoover says, CBS Sports just posted an article. Hold on here. Just jumped on me when I was reading it, fam. Let me see if I can get back to it. Just a second. Oh man, I might have lost it here. Y'all commenting so fast, it's hard for me to keep up. All right, let's see here. Good to see you, Tyra. Who that to you, baby? Let's see. Oh man, it jumped so far, I might have missed this comment. All right, let's see. Who that nation? Who that nation? Who that to you? Who that nation? Crash says Clowney messed up asking for 20 million, 3 sacks in 2019. Ain't nobody a fool out there except for the fool from Houston, the GM from Houston. Let's see. Drew Brees. Dada says Drew Brees doesn't want to hand the throne over yet. He's kind of selfish, Peyton, and some of those pass happy games though. Molly says Julio ain't playing LOL. We all knew he would lose, bro. No biggie, but hold y'all to 3 field goals. Boy, we expose y'all. Venom Rage says, wouldn't it be a surprise if we go after a linebacker with the 24th pick, Mario Queen? We lost A.J. Klein in free agency. Kiko Alonso, Alex Anzalone are hurt, and Craig Robertson can't outrun my grandpa. But I'll tell you, Craig Robertson gets slower and slower every year, man. Because that's how when they signed him over from the Browns, they were ranting and raving, but then Sean Payton seen that he couldn't run. But you signed A.J. Klein. And A.J. one of my favorite players, but I knew A.J. Klein wasn't a speed demon. But he was productive. But Alex Anzalone does have speed on him. Kiko's not the fastest guy, but he don't need his speed sometimes because he has that intelligence to read a play, to know where to position himself on the field, to follow where the ball will be. Watch how Kiko Alonso play. But you're right. The Saints do have Caden Ellis. They do need other players there, impactful players. And a lot of people, now, a lot of players, Venom Rage is bringing enlightenment to the linebacker position because you got to look at it. If you look at the linebacker position for the Saints, it's not as secure as you think it is. You have Demario Davis, who's sitting there with 1 year left on his contract. Demario's getting a little older, even though he's incredibly productive. You know, I love Demario Davis. You know, I can't say enough about the brother. He's up. He good with me. That's a good dude. And then you look at Caden Ellis, who was spectacular. He was my preseason MVP last year, coming off an injury. Alex Anzalone is another terrific guy I like, follows the Sports Coma. But this is the reality of the situation, is that if you got Alex, who's kind of got bitten by the injury bug, Caden Ellis, who's coming off injury, Demario's getting a little older, but he's still impactful, but he has 1 year left on his contract. The Venom Rage makes a point that perhaps the Saints need to address on the young linebacker, a sideline hitter, to keep that defense fresh and strong there. You see what I'm saying? Maybe that's something we need to look at as well. But if there are only 2 linebackers, according to the scouting reports, that are first round grade linebackers, Pat Queen and Ken Murray are the 2. If one of them should be there, in that pick, do the Saints take them? We'll see. It's still time for them to address the position through free agency, fam. So it's still a ways off before the draft comes, but from current indications right now, the linebacker position's got to be high up there. Superstar Louisiana Boy says, how do you get pick in the circle? How do you get pick in the circle, LOL? I don't get what you're saying now, Superstar Louisiana Boy. Demi, who that? Kevin says, Saints was just showing up thinking teams will bow down. Never underestimate your opponent. Thank you, Kevin. Tyra says, hey, hey, Tyra. JT says, hey, Q, 13-3 good or 9-7. It shouldn't matter if you're a good team and well coached. Hey, Q, 13-3 good or 9-7. It shouldn't matter if your team is well coached. If you got a well coached team, and a well coached team that's doing what they're supposed to do, they should be able to ascend. 13-3, the Saints have been at the last couple of years. And the more well-coached you are, the higher your win ratio should be. Look at what the 49ers and the Packers, those are well-coached teams last year. Now, they got up to a point where their talent couldn't take them past the team that they were playing. And they faults showed through and through. But that's what the playoffs is. The playoffs is all about the team you meeting there, and they really look at your faults and tear you up. And Packers couldn't get past that. That defense was weak. They couldn't get past that. The 49ers was special because they carried the running game and they created turnovers. They did several things to kind of keep things rolling, and they were impactful. But the well-coached teams usually have that high win rate ratio in terms of games. So the best and well-coached teams will be the guys sitting up there at the 12-4s, 13-3s, or what have you. See what I'm saying? But a team could be well-coached, don't get it until later in the year. Let's say they're 9-7 and get into the playoffs, but they got kind of hot toward the back end and back them. If they can carry that into the playoffs, they can be dangerous too. Remember, the Pittsburgh Steelers did that as a wild card, went into the Super Bowl and won it some time ago. Let's keep it going here. Let's see. Where am I at here? Molly Moss says, man, come on, bro. What game Brees can't score a touchdown? Well, Quinn made them changes. That's all the same. Molly Moss says, man, come on. Okay, I just read that. Let's see. Kevin said, Marcus Williams, where's your discipline? Molly Moss says, literally, he couldn't grade it. Garrett blew that line up like C4. Yeah, that guy's been a disaster for the Saints. Grady Jarrett, he does that to a lot of teams, though, to be honest with you, the truth. But he's a nightmare to block. The Saints got to get a handle on that guy. Iceman says, my boy Kyle Davis said it best. Which height is taller, 5'11" or 6'3"? Molly Moss says, I heard the Falcons or Saints might move up to draft Simmons from my Clemson Tigers. That would be special if you grab Simmons. He's a special player. That would be awesome for the Saints. I mean, that would be spectacular. But, moving up to get Simmons, big chips, blue chips, championships. Gundam says Drew better hit the weight room. Iceman says Drew Brees pride is hurting the team. Yeah, we win in the regular season, but the chip is what counts. Thank you, fam. Let's see who else we got here. Man, y'all just commenting so fast. Let's see. Kevin says, yeah, Q, but Jonathan Taylor in the Big Ten, Q, playing bums. I know, Kevin, but you got to remember too, fam, that you can only do what you can do against the people that you're playing. You know what I'm saying? And if that's all he has to play against is the Big Ten, then he got to tear him up. You get what I'm saying? You only as good as who you play against. That's like when Mike Tyson was fighting and Don King was running Mike Tyson's career at that time. He lined up the Bum of the Month Club. I used to talk about that. I talked about this in the prior live stream before, when Don King was trying to build Tyson's name up to the public as a knockout artist and create his persona as Iron Mike Tyson. You know, he became less disciplined, yes, and he made more money than he ever made with Don King. But Don was lining up fighters which Tyson would be able to dominate. You know, some of the serious fighters, he kept away from Mike Tyson when he was marching them up there. And that's what managers do. They manage you, meaning they'll tell you, listen, you don't want no part of that guy over there. Listen, we'll fight this guy over here and this other guy, and then after that, we'll fight that guy. That's what it was. That's how they do it. They do it today. They do it today. The only fighter that wants to fight King Kong Ortiz, Luis Ortiz, is Deontay Wilder. Nobody wants a part of Luis Ortiz. And if you don't know who Luis Ortiz is, feel free to Google him. Luis Ortiz is the scariest heavyweight in the game. But you hear Tyson Fury talk all that shit, but he won't go over there and fight Ortiz. The only one that actually fought him was Deontay Wilder. He was the only one with the heart of a champion to fight that dude, and that dude was considered the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. Nobody wanted a part of King Kong Ortiz. But I say that to say that managers will move you away because some fighters say, give him to me, I'll beat anybody, I'll fight him anybody. No, they don't do that. The manager will then pick the fighter because he know who you're going to be able to beat and who you're going to have problems with. Anyway, let's keep it moving here. Just threw that in there to say that about what was I talking about? About who your competition in the Big Ten. You can only beat who you play against, you know? How would Taylor look in the SEC? You don't think he can look like Swift in the SEC? Hey, man. Hey, I'll tell you, a good running back is a good running back. Let's see. Devin says, being he's on a tender right now, says it all. Dominic says Drew Brees and his wife donated $5 million to Louisiana for the people in need during this time. Big ups to Drew Brees on that and his family there, man. It was big by Drew putting his money where his mouth is, man. Big ups, because this is a national tragedy is going on with this whole thing. People losing their family members because of this stuff. It's taking the breath away. They can't breathe. There are people on respirators. They don't know. And they saying that certain, like if you're taking certain cold medicines, that exacerbates the goddamn thing. So it's a lot of stuff out here that people are learning due to the fact that people are going and they getting treatment and they treating them and not knowing, you know, what's going to happen if you treat them with this. And then after they treat them, they realize that you can't treat them with that, but it might have taken somebody's life to understand it. You get what I'm saying? That's what it's called when you consider it a practice. When you go to a doctor, what do you call it? A call when you have doctors, they call it a practice. What does practice mean? Practice mean practice. That's the sad reality. I got to tell you that. And there's a lot of mistakes that's made when you practice. In other words, family, just understand, man, keep your eyes open, your ears open, and be disciplined. Keep your mind open and look for facts beyond the traditional means. That's all I can share with you right now. Let's keep it going. Let me get through the rest of these comments here. Dada, don't pass on another Ray Lewis and play positions of Magic Simmons, says Molly. Kevin says potential, but remember, none of these guys haven't played an NFL game. Derek says, sorry, dropped my phone, but you in time out of mistake. Molly says, hey, Trail, they played Trail Hatch. Trail in the building. Trail, who that to you, Trail? He says, happy 28-3 day. Inside joke, Falcons blows the lead. Super Bowl. No, actually, we knew that because Terry Kimble was here, contributor from the Who Dat Dish, came and dropped some knowledge on us earlier. And he started the podcast off by saying happy 28-3 day. Molly says, hey, Trail, they played Minnesota Miracle. Donovan said, I agree, but some players are for studs. Joshua said, it's cool. Molly says, I tried to limit my trash talk. LOL, I can get hateful, but I respect you. Thank you, Molly. I respect you too. Thank you, family. Let's see. We got Trail. Let's see who else we got. Molly says, I seek you understand. Venom Rage says, when we won the Super Bowl, we played a big nickel D, had versatile physical safeties that could cover and play towards the line of scrimmage. I think Jenkins could provide that type of versatility for us. Thank you, Venom Rage. Very interesting comment right there, and that's very true. Maybe we can bring some of that back, man. And you're right that he does provide that ability as well. And maybe that's what the Saints are looking at, kind of getting back to. Why go away from it if it worked for you? If you can do it, let's bring it back and make it happen. Thank you for that comment. Kevin said the NFL is a different breed. Only the strong survive there. Tyra says, go play with the pitchers, Smiley. Teal, what up, Teal? My dog Teal in the building. Says, Coach Payton got out, coach. Coaching has been the reason why we have failed. Coaching has been the reason why we fail in the playoffs. Drew Brees has 2 good years and shows no sign of decline, unlike Tom Brady. Drew is the GOAT. Who that? Thank you, Teal. Appreciate you dropping that knowledge, fam. Teal went in on him on a paragraph. My boy Teal don't usually say too much in the chat. He went a whole paragraph. Keep it going, Teal. Kevin says, against LSU, exposed against NFL, a question. Michael says, Q, I missed your live stream yesterday, but watched it. There was a lot of talk about Jameis Winston to the Saints. Thought it would be like the second coming of Aaron Brooks. Oh, my goodness, no. No, Jameis Winston is all wrong, fam. Thank you, Michael. Molly says, Iceman says, man, drop Jewels, Q. Thank you, fam. Molly says, now against LSU, that left the corner. Now against LSU, that left corner got murdered. We had LSU, but I'm not that mad. We can't win every year. So Molly's an Atlanta guy and a Clemson guy. I'm an LSU guy and a Saints guy. You know, it just shows you. Clemson won it. They beat LSU. They beat the Tide. They took the Tide out. How many championships Clemson have? 2 of them, right? They took 2 from Nick Saban. And of course, now Saban is not going to get anything else because LSU has arrived. And truth be told, LSU is now in the possibility of landing the best dual prospect quarterback in the country. So, I mean, things are changing quick in the SEC for LSU and Alabama. They had an opportunity to dominate, but this could be the end of the Crimson Tide. We won't underestimate them, though. Kevin says, we do this every year. Oh, this guy is the next blah, blah, and turn out to be boo-boo. Kevin, Clemson is the championship every year. We'll be back. Yeah, they got a chance with the quarterback out there. What's the guy with the long hair? I forgot his name. That guy out, Trevor Lawrence, that dude is special, and they still got ETN there from Baton Rouge. Watch out for Clemson. They will most certainly be back. That could be the new rivalry there. Ryle say LOL. Thank you, Michael. Kevin says Clemson and SEC. Nah, bro, they wouldn't go nowhere. I think Clemson will be all right. Clemson will be able to play in the SEC. They stumped out South Carolina last year. They could be able to beat Kentucky. They could beat Missouri. You know, if Clemson came into the SEC, they could be a serious school to compete because they got top. They recruit very well. They have top talent. They have an excellent coaching staff there. Clemson dominates where they are because there's a lot of garbage teams in there. But if they come into the SEC, there's a handful of schools that they could beat. I know they could beat Kentucky. I know they could beat Tennessee. I know they could beat Ole Miss. I know they could beat Mississippi State. That's like 4 teams already. You know, they'll struggle against other teams. They probably will go. They could beat Georgia, but the top 10 teams, they already showed you they could beat Alabama in the biggest of games. LSU is a team you definitely got to watch out for, but we'll see. We'll see. That's talk for the Tough Tiger Talk podcast that we do. Stuff there. Big ups, Till. Till. My dog Till chimed in with a paragraph, man. Till, keep it up, brother. Come on with some more paragraphs, Till. My dog don't chime in unless he got something to say. Let's see. Trail says LSU beat every team in the embarrassing fashion. It destroyed everybody. I enjoyed it too. Molly says, yeah, my sister went to Clemson. Man, I used to go up there every weekend to visit. Small 2-hour drive from ATL. And he says, yeah, okay, the same thing. But listen, I like to thank all the beautiful Black and Gold family members for chiming in the live stream today. Man, I had a ball, man. I thank y'all, man. And just to let some of the family members know, we had a guest cameo today from Terry Kimble. Terry Kimble is a Saints contributor from the Who Dat Dish. Very knowledgeable brother. He came in, showed the Great Saints Think Tank some love, and I appreciate if the Great Saints Think Tank showed Terry Kimble some love. You know, the brother probably still listening right now to the live stream. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate Terry for dropping the knowledge on us, brother. He also made a commitment to say that he'll come back and drop some knowledge with the Saints when they get close to the draft. And I just want Terry to know he welcome on the Great Saints Think Tank. Anytime he want to come on and share some knowledge, you're more than welcome, Terry. Thank you, man. Appreciate you for joining us today. And also, I'd like to thank all the beautiful Black and Gold family members. Who that to you, Ramsey? I see your family. Good to see you in the live chat. I'd like to thank all of the beautiful Black and Gold family members for joining the live stream today, you know, as well as our Saturday live streams do pretty good. And it's just been a really good show, very enlightening show. I appreciate everybody for joining us today. And as always, if to help out the live stream, you can feel free to go to the Pro Shop. That's the official site of the platform. All merchandise, all monies go back into the platform from the Pro Shop. It's a way of funding the platform and keeping it strong. And it's over 30 different designs available on the Pro Shop. Everything from coffee mugs, towels, waving towels, shirts, small phone cover cases, socks, leggings, tank tops, tees, whatever and anything you could possibly imagine is on there and available at the Pro Shop. Take a look at it. The link in the description section below, family. It helps out the live stream. The Pro Media Network also does audio streams, family. The Sports Coma or audio versions are available there. The Pelican Post Game Report, Ring Kings Boxing, and Tough Tiger Talk. Those are the other podcasts that's available there on the live stream. So if you're interested in listening to the live streams, you can go there and listen to it, and they go back a good deal. So it's a lot of live streams there you can listen to. And remember, family, the new show that's coming up soon is called On Cue with Big Q. That's coming up real soon. That'll only be available through our Patreon page and our Spreaker page, or Spreaker.com/thesportscoma. And that'll be stuff we cover, all the stuff outside of football that don't deal with the Saints or the Pelicans or boxing, all that kind of stuff, but other football related or basketball, college hoops, entertainment news, as well as stuff that's going on in the world right now is covered on those platforms. So patreon.com is what On Cue with Big Q will be. And if you want to listen to it, you can go to Patreon and sign up, to listen to it and view the show. And trust me, it's going to be a breath of fresh air in terms of the world, the climate that we're living in now. Stuff that I come across from time to time, I like to share it in a way that I like to share with my family members. And if you enjoy the podcast or the live streams that I do, I think you'll really appreciate and love and like to listen to On Cue with Big Q, because it'll be very informative. It'll be very empowering, and you can feel free to join it. Like I said, if you want to join the show, it starts April the 1st. You go to patreon.com/the Media Network and sign up. And it's $1, $5 per month for $10, $20, whatever you want to do to help out the live stream. But remember, the more support you show, the more I go. Meaning that, my commitment to the family members. When I told you I was coming with the middle of the week shows, I'm representing, and I continue to do that. And this is more of my commitment because so many of the family members are showing love and showing their financial commitment and a watch time commitment and sharing the shows and all this and talking, sharing the shows on social media and sharing the shows word of mouth is beefing up the shows. And it is my commitment to the family to turn out more quality content. And that's what this is. So here, go to patreon.com/the PRO Media Network for more information on that. And the show will be starting April the 1st. So it'll be very enlightening, family. I think you will enjoy it as well. I'm not putting it on YouTube because of obvious reason. They have issues and stuff like that. I'd rather not. And these are a little bit better platforms to be able to speak on the type of stuff we want to speak on. So anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for joining the live stream. Thank you to brother Terry Kimble from Who Dat Dish, the Saints key contributor, for signing in. Had a great discussion. If you missed that, family, when the show goes final, feel free to go back and watch that. Share that. Take the show and share it around. Shoot it to your social media. Share it on all the Facebook. If you were part of all these Saints Facebook groups, take that and the link and put it on through there. That helps out the show exponentially. So I'd like to thank all the beautiful Black and Gold family members for chiming in the live stream today. It's been wonderful today. Michael says, Q, do you see Cowherd talking ish about Joe Burrow and LSU win? Shaking my head. Colin Cowherd is a politician that's talking about sports. That's what I get from Cowherd. Cowherd is a politician talking about sports, and I mean he's it's a point where it just, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not going to get too far in it, but it is what it is with Cowherd. Sometimes that shock value stuff, half that stuff that he be talking about, he don't even believe that, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's how some of those guys, that's like Whitlock, Jason Whitlock. He looked like one of my old uncles. One of my uncles, a big guy from the country, from Columbia, Mississippi, or Tylertown, Mississippi, somewhere up there. Eating cornbread and greens and fried chicken. Big guy. That's my uncles used to look like Whitlock, but I think Whitlock be saying stuff for shock value too. But I'd like to thank all the beautiful of Black and Gold family members for chiming in the live stream. Thank y'all. Man, y'all be safe out there. Please be safe out there. Please keep your eyes, ears open. Above all, do not fear anything. Do not fear anything. And I'm not telling you to go out there and be foolish, but have courage in this time, because fear is a method that's used to promote people to do stuff that they ought not do, or sign off on stuff that they shouldn't do because they feel like they don't have any options. By all means, please keep yourself disciplined, keep yourself calm, and keep your mind open. Because remember, when you go into fear mind, into the fear mindset, the logical mind shut down. And the logical mind is what you need, because that attaches you to the beyond, to the creator, to that great universal library of information. I think the old people call it the Akashic record some time ago, but that's getting off on something else. But remember this, family. Remember that do not let fear get into your mindset. Stay under control. Stay strong, have courage, and by all means, keep your eyes and your ears open to the things that are going on around you. Give yourself an opportunity to get away from all of the fear pandering and all that kind of stuff. Be mindful. These are very weird and mysterious times while a lot of really kooky and creepy stuff is going on, more so outside of this sickness or this thing that's spreading across the world. These things happen for a reason, and I've read on many different literatures that that explain the reason why this stuff is going on. I won't talk about it in this show because it's not the platform. That's why it's on Q with Big Q. But anyway, I thank y'all. I love y'all, man. Y'all be safe. I appreciate the hell out of y'all. Big ups to you. Go to the pro shop and show some support. Share the links in the Saints Facebook groups or on your social media pages, and I shall see you later. So thank you. I love y'all. Peace.
Yeah. Well, all right. Like you always say, welcome, welcome, welcome. Number one sports talking D. We ain't like the Falcons, we won't blow the lead. Look, all we talk is who that, who got cut and who back. Rookies and the vets, players you should look at. It's the sports coma, you don't wanna miss it. Got the pre-game party, post-game statistics. Get a visit from Sway, maybe DC or 5. It's the hottest thing smoking, Big Q and the guys. Go to YouTube Live, make sure you subscribe. Interviews inside the Saints locker room high. Talk to Drew, Jordan, Zach, Peyton, New Orleans, Who Dat Nation. Best believe when I say we bleed gold and black. Ain't a miracle or rivalry could ever hold us back. No, Beastquake, Bounty Gate, let the truth be told. It's the sports coma, all we know is Saints Super Bowl. Yeah.